हाय गाइस, एम आई ऑडिबल? आवाज़ आ रही है? ओके। ठीक है, फिर स्टार्ट आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस। कैसे हो सब लोग? हाउ इज़ एवरीवन? हाउ वाज माय डे वाज गुड. I was working on the last three videos of the Linux master class. So this coming week, I guess the Linux master class would be concluded, and after that we can start with the HTML videos. So pretty excited for that. And I'm also like kind of changing the structure of the boot camp a little bit. It's not like I'm going to like remove anything out of it, but just like doing stuff, moving things a little bit here and there. So in June itself, we'll start with Python, and we'll start exploring Flask. I mean, soon after we start Python. So that is going to be there, a bit of an update for you guys. How much CSS should we know as a beginner? Uh, Not much. I mean, CSS is something that you should like know the basic concepts of, like how CSS works and what are different properties of CSS. How do you get different things working? But post that, I mean, even if you don't remember per se what different properties are and things like that, then you can obviously anytime Google. I mean, no one is going to stop you from Googling. I myself don't remember CSS much. Whenever I have to build something, I just like Google here and there and fiddle around a little bit with the code, and it usually works. So Naman Tiwari says, "Hi Apoorv, could you lead us through getting remote jobs as junior developer? As there is a doubt that there is no role for junior devs in remote jobs." Yeah, I mean, like when the bootcamp completes, obviously, I mean, you would have enough skills that you can even apply for roles that ask you for 1 or 2 years of experience. So that won't be an issue. And like apart from that, since we'll be spending a lot of time in building our portfolio, so that is also going to help you in getting jobs. Alchemist asks me, how was it like when you're trying to get your first job? So, I mean, obviously, the pressure is immense when you're trying to get your first job. I still remember that when I got my first offer, it was in October 2018, and it was from a startup, Pune-based startup, and they offered me uh, 70,000 rupees, I guess, in a month. That was the salary that they were offering me, and it was a role on React Native, and I like prepared hard for that because before applying to that role, I like also like the most that I knew was JavaScript. I didn't know any of React. I didn't know any of React Native, and I like obviously didn't have a portfolio in React Native. But since they were looking for a React Native developer, that was the time when I spent 72 hours straight studying React Native, and once I was through, I mean, I built a couple of projects after learning React Native in those 3 days, and I also studied Redux and stuff like that. And post that, I mean, when I gave the interview, I got the job. So obviously, I mean, the pressure was immense. But if you're willing to put in the hard work, then it's not like you won't get a job. It's just that getting your first job is going to be a little bit harder than getting jobs later on in your career. So that is one thing. But yeah, I mean, the first step of anything is always harder, right? uh, is Git Masterclass the end of phase 1? No, obviously not. It's just a part of phase 1. Rajesh Kannan asks that, hey, how to find, I'm not sure if I pronounced that accurately. He asked that how to find proper tech for a fresher. I'm started doing Java DSA. See, I mean, before even, starting out, there are two approaches. So one approach is that you kind of go with the flow. Whatever is coming your way, you you know, just try to adapt as the time passes by. Adapt in a sense that you're learning something, but you feel like, this other technology might be, booming, and there are a lot of opportunities coming up in that particular technology, such as, blockchain. In today's time, it is kind of booming, and we know that few years down the line there would be a lot of opportunities in blockchain. Currently there are a lot of opportunities in blockchain, but it just doesn't depends on that. It should not be that there are opportunities in this particular field, so I just go take that up. You should also have some sort of interest in it, right? So for me personally, I mean, I don't enjoy doing mobile development. It's not like I cannot do mobile development, but I just don't enjoy it. So I never try to build my career on mobile development just because it pays good or there are a lot of opportunities, right? So I mean, you should be aware where your interest lies. You should be, whatever the first language that you're picking. In your case, since it is Java, just make sure that you enjoy Java. If you don't enjoy working on Java, then definitely, I mean, sometime down the line, you are going to get confused about the entire concept of software engineering. Uh, because software engineering is kind of more about tinkering with the code. So if you're not like comfortable with the language that you're picking, the first language that you're picking, and if you're not comfortable with that, then you cannot understand it in depth, and if you cannot understand in depth, then it is going to be difficult to transition to other languages as well, like going forward. Because I mean, in my case, I started with Python, but after Python, when I wanted to switch to JavaScript or C++ or Golang or Rust or things like that, then it was pretty easy for me because I knew the fundamentals of Python. And the fundamentals, since all of these languages that I'm talking about, all of these are Turing complete, right? And because of that, I mean, when I was trying to make that switch from Python to other technologies and stacks, it was a lot more easier for me since my fundamentals was pretty great. And the same applies to higher level things as well. If I'm doing web development right now, then at this point of time, the stack doesn't matter for me. I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm building the same application in Python or in JavaScript or in Golang or in Rust or PHP, whatever it is. I mean, uh, it doesn't matter anymore just because my fundamentals are strong in web development, right? So Malisha Gawali asks that how to start networking and build connections. Um so it's pretty simple. I mean, just start utilizing the social media uh, for what it's meant to be, right? Just don't go through memes and stuff like that all day. Because I mean, when I started out early, I kind of was kind of addicted to memes, and I used to go through memes all the time, without actually exploring people, trying to find out other people who are similar in similar field that I was working on. So I used to like waste my time in a lot of those things that used to give me some instant pleasure, some instant recreational stuff to do, but it didn't help me in the long run. So don't utilize it for the wrong purposes. Use it to explore people, find new people, try to connect with them, right? Try to add them in your DMs, try to ask questions, right? It's You should not like stick to just one place when you're trying to learn, right? You should be open to other people's experiences, because everyone has a different journey, right? So you might get to learn something from someone else's journey that I might not be able to teach you, right? So do that. And as long as you're posting stuff that interests other people in similar field, they are going to want to connect with you, right? And when they want to connect with you, then your profile will start getting more reach over the period of time. When it starts getting more reach, then definitely, I mean, you would be in a better position where you could say that you like have a lot of people in your network, right? And these people are over the time going to help you in getting opportunities and things like that. I think I missed some questions in the middle. um, So Stark Hunt asks, "Hey bro, as you told about full stack DevOps role, so is there any role like Android DevOps or mobile DevOps too? Being an Android app developer, can I work as DevOps too, as I don't know WebDev?" Uh, See, I mean, there are some things that go complementary with each other, right? And when we talk about full stack DevOps role, it's generally a developer who can also deploy the application, right? Who can set up the infrastructure of the application or something like that, right? So of course, you can do the same thing with mobile dev as well, because in mobile development, if you're someone who can, I mean, ultimately you're trying to build an application, right? Now that application might have some backend interfaces, they might have some internal tools, that are connected to the application. Maybe you're building an application, a mobile application, whose some analytics go to the sales team, right? There's some analytics go to the marketing team. There are some analytics that go to the operations team. Maybe you're building an e-commerce, and all the orders that are being placed, you need to give that data to the ops team, the operations team, or something like that, right? So I mean, setting up that entire infrastructure also kind of comes into DevOps, how that infrastructure works efficiently. It's like a gray zone between software architecture and DevOps, right? So software architect is the one who kind of defines what tech stack to use, but the DevOps are the guys that set up how those applications or that entire system, the different elements of that system are going to communicate with each other, right? So obviously, I mean, the same thing can be done with mobile dev as well, because if you're building a mobile application, then again there's going to be some backend to it. So it might be that your backend server is somewhere else, your front end for the mobile application is written somewhere, you need that to communicate in a microservice architecture or something like that, right? So all of that still is going to be there, so you can definitely do that. Can you suggest a roadmap for learning front end development from scratch to landing a remote job? uh, Yeah, I mean, for front end, just go with HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, the basic stuff. Get really good with JavaScript, and pick a framework of JavaScript. Try to pick something out of Next.js and React.js, because that is something that is going to help you in the longer run. And once you pick that framework, just like build a lot of applications with that framework, and that's pretty much about it. And you should also, like, as a front end developer, you should also have some knowledge, like some basic knowledge of backend as well, because if you don't, then that is going to hurt your chances of getting hired in the long run. It will be great if you can put out the updated list of tech stacks we will be learning after each phase. That would be there in the website. Don't worry about that. Do you like Python more or JavaScript? Python, any day. Because Python is like the first programming language I started with. When will you give assignment projects? Like currently we are working on Linux, so Linux really doesn't have any assignments or projects per se, right? So that's why, I mean, with Linux, none of that kind of applies. But as soon as we, start going into the HTML videos, there are going to be assignments and projects that you would be building. Some with the video, some like uh, based on whatever you learned as a project after the video, right? So all of that is going to be there. Raj Parekh asks a very good question. How to select a company to apply to, and most product based companies are asking for CS degree plus recent pass outs, and how much salary should be aimed for as a fresher? Um, so I'll answer how to select a company. So to select a company, what I usually used to do was, whenever I used to, like whenever I was open to jobs and I wanted to, get some good job in a company, what I used to do was, I generally used to search up on Quora and Glassdoor and all these websites, finding people who can explain the work culture of that company. And I used to go through their answers, what other people who have worked in the past or who are currently working in that company have to say about what it's like working in that company. And if I really like the answer and I feel that this is somewhere that I really want to work in, then I used to apply to that company. So that is one thing that you can do. And I feel that culture is very important and equally important as salary. So there are sometimes some trade-offs, that are applicable in some cases. It might be that you're getting a great salary at a company that, you know, doesn't cares much about their employees, and their employees are even spending their weekends working for the company or stuff like that. And there are companies who have an excellent work culture but might not be paying as much as you may aim for. So try to find a balance between that. The best type of company that you could ask for is the one that has a great work culture as well as a great salary. And as for how much salary you should aim for, there's no answer to that. I mean, how much you want, whatever your needs are. Right. So, I mean, just try to calculate how much amount of money you might be needing for survival, right? And I'm talking as a fresher's point of view. Obviously, later on in your career, you would be more specific about how much money you would actually ask for based on your skills, right? And I mean, to calculate that sort of amount, what I usually do is I just try to evaluate how much work I would be actually doing in a company, right? It's usually about uh, 20 to 30 hours, something like that, that you would be putting in a week, right? So you could safely assume that in 1 month's time, you would be working around 100 hours for that company, right? Now, come at a base price for yourself, an hourly price for yourself, that for 1 hour, how much, based on your skills, how much money do you want to charge, right? And it could be anything. As a fresher, it could be that you're someone who is placing yourself around 200 $300 or something like that. And based on that, if you like try to calculate it, then it would for 100 hours it would come out to be 20 30,000 per month. But that's pretty less, right? So try to at least price yourself about 500 to $600, which makes around um, 50 60,000 in a month on 100 hours of work for a month, right? And then try to negotiate accordingly. So as a freshers base price, ideally you should aim for about 800 to 1000 rupees per month, which makes it about 80,000 to 1 lakhs. But sadly, in India, you don't get that kind of packages if you are not working at elite companies, or if you are not good with your skills. So I mean, what matters at this point of time more than your skills is the more than the salary is your skills, right? You should be very good with what you do, and definitely you're going to get that kind of pay. um, you shouldn't be very greedy. I mean, I like recently came across someone who rejected a package of 1.55 lakhs a month because just because it was not like 30 or 40 LPA, right? It was 18 LPA, so that guy rejected it, and after that, he's not getting packages anymore. I mean, that same guy is now considering getting a package of 10 LPA, and he's fine with it because now he has started getting desperate to get a job. So just because he was greedy when he got 18 LPA and he rejected it, it's not working out for him anymore. Uh, Again, I missed a lot of questions in the middle. Mohammed Salik asked that there is a lot of buzz everywhere that hiring in the software job market is coming to a halt due to various global phenomenon. Can you shed some light on this topic? Uh, what kind of phenomenon? I mean, I am not aware of any like halt in any software job market. Like the hiring is not being done or something like that. Obviously, there are layoffs, and the layoffs are majorly, I mean, if you are referring to the layoffs that are happening in the Indian startup ecosystem, and the recession that people are talking about, that the next 12 to 18 months are going to see some sort of recession. Um, like, and the companies are going to suffer, there are not going to be investments and things like that, then those kind of things are going to happen. But I mean, as you must have already heard, um, when these kinds of things happen, like a classic example of that is the COVID pandemic. In the pandemic, I mean, the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, right? So the people who are going to have the skills that the companies need are obviously going to be more in demand than the people who don't have the skills, because these small scale companies, it might be that in the next 12 to 18 months, the smaller companies and some startups in Indian ecosystem might not be getting as much funds as they were enjoying as of like till this point of time. So due to that, there are going to be layoffs, and there are going to be some low opportunities in the Indian ecosystem, especially. Right, but new startups keep coming up, right? I mean, when these kinds of things happen, and as we know in the world, problems keeps getting created, right? And new players with new solutions keep coming up, right? So there are going to be new startups that are going to emerge with time, right? And these new startups, as soon as they pick up the pace of the market, they are going to escalate quickly. So when that happens, then obviously they are going to create a lot of opportunities for you guys as well. Right, so you can aim for that, but in order to avoid such situation that just because some recession or anything you're not getting hired, try to build your skills. I mean, you're currently in the learning phase. Don't, um, you know, don't, learn because you want to get a good package. Learn because you want to learn, right? Learn because you want to get good at something, and if you are good at something, you're definitely going to get good packages, right? Because this is like the one of the most noob mistakes that any beginner would make. They like their motivation, the entire motivation behind them doing something is that यार ये कर लूंगा, 1-2 लाख मिल जाएंगे महीने के. So this is like the biggest no mistake anyone does, because when you start having that kind of mentality at the back of your mind, it is going to stay there. I mean, whenever you try to study, you would always try to, it will always keep running in your mind as a background process. I mean, if you have watched the Linux masterclass, it's going to keep running in the back of your mind as a background process, which is going to consume some CPU of your brain, some memory from your brain, right? And it's only going to slow you down, right? So I mean, don't have that kind of mentality. Just like make sure that you're learning for actually getting good at something, and then definitely you're going to get a job and a good package as well. It's good to learn DevOps before doing web development. Uh, yeah, I honestly don't know answer to that, because it might be, but I didn't take that path. I mean, I first learned about web development, and the knowledge of web development kind of immensely helped me with understanding DevOps, right? So that's as per my personal experience, but there might be some people who learned DevOps first and then got into web development. So you should try reaching out to those people, and then try to understand what they think about this. If you should do DevOps before web development. In my personal experience, since I had some knowledge about web development, it immensely helped me in understanding and getting better with DevOps. Again, I missed some questions in the middle. So Charan Singh asks, is purchasing two domains, one for portfolio and one for blogging, worth it for self branding? Uh, okay, so I'll put this very like in layman's term for you. So I mean, my personal thing that I do. I mean, the thing that I usually do is, uh, when I start making money out of something, right? It is at that point of time when I start investing into it, right? So in my case, I wouldn't go for a domain or a portfolio, a domain for a portfolio or a blogging or anything like that. I would just try to explore some few resources. So for example, I mean, if you want to, let's say, host some application of yours, try to host it on Heroku, right? You don't need a domain for that. Or try to use the free tier of AWS, right? Any EC2 instance that you create on AWS is also going to have a link with it, right? So just use that link instead of a neat link like something.com or something.org, something like that. And you can, like, if the investment is pretty minimum, then that's something that you can do. But ideally don't go for that in the students phase, right? And for blogging, you can use things like, dev.to or hashnode. They are pretty good tools, right? If I talk about my YouTube channel right now, right, this is something that I started, and I hardly invested any money in it. I mean, I had this, like, um, this HyperX headphones already, right? So this is what I'm using to record my videos. The camera that you're seeing in front of your screen is simply my phone, right? It's just the front camera of my phone. I didn't had an DSLR or a mirrorless camera or something like that. I will buy it over time, like, but when I start, like, when it start, making something for me, right? When I start making something out of this YouTube channel or anything, then I'll, start investing back into it to, upgrade my the gear and things like that. In the beginning phase, I mean, a lot of people get stuck with the fact that I don't have a camera or something like that. So how do I do? Right stuff. And I was kind of not satisfied with the web camera that I had in my MacBook. I was not satisfied with the web camera that I have in my desktop. I just used my phone, right? And I already had a pen tablet, and this green screen is something that I purchased, right? But apart from that, I mean, I didn't invest much in this channel as well. So I mean, this is the basic mentality that you should have. Invest as less and as you can in anything that you're doing at the beginning phase. Then eventually, when you start, doing good, when you start performing well, then, start making investments. So the initial, if when I started coding initially, the first laptop that I had was very low config, 2 GB RAM and things like that. But when I started making money with it, then I bought a MacBook, right? So that's how it should be. Don't waste money in buying domains and things like that. It does looks good, but I mean, you should have something to showcase as well before that. Okay, Pratham asked that I am in 12th commerce and next year I will be applying for colleges, and I was confused between doing BCA offline or online, or considering BSc IT and pursuing that. Okay. Um I kind of honestly don't know what's the major difference between BCA and BSc, because I mean, I didn't explore much after school. What college or what degree do I want to get, right? Um, but I think you can go for the online mode of BCA, because if you are doing it just for the sake of getting degree, then the online variant of it would give you the degree that you might need for applying to jobs, right? If in case you need that, and still you won't be investing a lot of time into, wasting a lot of time in attending lectures and things like that on the curriculum, which is heavily outdated. So many questions are coming in. I'm missing out questions in the middle. Shri Harsha says, I have 3 years gap after education. At present, I am learning web development. How can I reduce the effect of my career gap and eligible for interviews? Very good question. So, one thing that I can recommend to, like, reduce your gap, the education gap that you have, is by simply, build a lot of applications. These are the applications that you can obviously showcase to anyone, saying that these were the things that I was building in those 3 years, right? And you could also, get associated with some startup or anything like that pro bono, right? And just try to understand, how stuff works and things like that, because whenever these employers or anything, whenever they ask for any sort of experience or anything like that, it's not like they are going to ask you or make you submit a degree or something, right? Not a degree, I mean some experience letter about whatever you have done, because there are a lot of startups that come up in India. Multiple people, different peoples are doing, every other guy is doing a startup, right? And most of these startups are not registered, right? And just because they are not registered, they are not eligible to provide you with an experience certificate, right? So you can exploit that kind of a thing where you can say that I've worked in so and so startup. The only catch here is that you should know about like what really happens in a startup, and you should have that level of competence, and you should be able to justify whatever you are claiming, that I've worked in so and so startup in these 3 years, and I've built these projects. Projects are essential. You should build a lot of projects to add in your portfolio, and you can also showcase these projects as something that you have freelanced. I mean, no one is going to ask you that what were you like. Can you show me the like a proof that you have freelanced this, right? You can just build something and tell anyone that I built it for a client, right? And that's the end of it. I mean, it doesn't move ahead of that as long as you're good with what you do, right? So you need to justify those 3 years now. If you're going to claim that those 3 years was something that I was doing, like I was freelancing or I was working in a startup or something like that, if you're going to claim all of that, then you should be good enough to justify all of that, right? So it's going to take 3 times the hard work, since it's a 3 years gap in education, to cover that up. But yeah, I mean, it's something that can be done. AKM asked that I am in second year and I don't have good placements. Bro, no one has placements in second year. I'm interested in both data science and full stack. Which one pays higher in remote jobs? If you're good at something, if let's say you're just good with HTML, right? Even if like it's just like something as simple as HTML, as long as you are damn good with it, people are going to pay a lot of money for that, right? So it's not like full stack pays more than data science, or data science pays more than full stack. I've seen people earning millions of dollars just through full stack, and I've on the other hand seen people earning that much amount of money just with the knowledge of data science, right? So I mean, as I already, mentioned in this stream, if you are going to learn something, thinking that this is going to like मुझे 1-2 लाख मिल जाएंगे करके, I'm going to get that much amount of money after doing this skill, then definitely, I mean, your entire motivation to learn that thing lies somewhere else, and I don't think that you're going to ever reach that level in whatever you pursue, whatever field you pursue, be it data science, full stack, DevOps, whatever it is. I don't think you would ever reach that sort of level where you're going to make that amount of money, right? Because I mean, to be good at something, to be like extremely good at something, really good at something, you should be curious about that thing, and to build that curiosity, you should have a lot of interest in that thing. So like if you're choosing data science just because it pays more, it's not like not for you. Other people earn a lot of money out of data science, you won't be earning a lot of money, because I mean, you just because you don't have that curiosity to actually get good at data science, you're not like, no one is going to pay that kind of money, invest that kind of money in you, because there are, I mean, a lot of people get hired in companies based on their drive to learn more, right? I mean, whenever a lot of people speak about mentioning that you are a fast learner, you are a good learner, and you are curious and things like that in your resume. Why do they ask that? Because these are good qualities that companies are looking for, right? If they come across messages like these, that you are asking for which one pays more, then it definitely tells them where your motivation and drive lies. I mean, if let's say tomorrow a new technology comes up that is that usually like pays more than the technology that exists today. I mean, machine learning pays a lot of money, data science pays a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that that same money cannot be earned by a full stack developer. A full stack developer can make a lot of money, and honestly, I mean, they do. It's not like they get less paid than data science. It might be that the average salaries that they get might be a couple of $1,000 here and there annually, right? But it's not a major difference. So don't take that as your motivation, which one pays more, because then I mean you're going to get stuck with not excelling that and just staying an average, and being an average at something is going to bring average money, right? If you want to earn those premium salaries, those exquisite salaries that we hear about, that we envy so much, right? That this guy is making that much money, that guy is making that much money. If you want those premium salaries, then you have to be good. No one pays premium salaries on low skills, right? So that's pretty basic thing. Which resources did you use to study? uh, I generally used to, like, my basic method, the basic mantra that I followed back in the days when I was learning was to uh, you know kind of challenge myself as much as I can. So I didn't used to watch as many tutorials, and one of the reasons for not watching tutorials is that back then, I mean, there were not a lot of content creators that were there, and the ones that were there, I sort of felt that their courses were still incomplete. I mean, whatever they used to teach, I felt like they are not covering each and everything that they should, and more like a clickbait thing or something. I went through some courses on Udemy. I went through some playlists on YouTube. There were not a lot of creators back then, but the ones that were there, I I really like this one creator. I'll try to uh, Mosh Hamedani, right? So I like that one. That's someone who is like really good with um, web development. I used to watch his videos sometimes, but other than that, I didn't watched a lot of tutorials, and yeah, I mean, I just used to give myself a lot of challenges. I used to take up a freelancing project on something that I had no idea about, and then I used to like build that entire thing while learning that technology. So the first project that I ever built on Node.js, I picked up that project as a freelancing project from a network of mine, and I had about 2 weeks to complete that project, and the catch here was that I got that project on Node.js, but I didn't even knew JavaScript back then. So I only used to code it in Python, and I had no idea what JavaScript is. I had no idea what Node.js is, and I still built that project and I completed that project. So I used to keep like give myself all these kinds of challenges, because then these challenges used to push me, as much as I needed, and these challenges, made sure that I'm learning a specific technology uh, in a small amount of time. So I know that I only have 2 weeks to complete this project, so it only kind of takes like, I used to make sure that I'm working hard those 2 weeks to learn and build through that technology. So that was my basic mantra, and I still kind of do that. I mean, I don't like I don't back off out of any technology that I don't know. I just simply take it as a challenge. Like, you can say that currently, if someone asks me that build something on that PHP framework, Laravel or something, right? So if someone asks me to build something on that, I never have worked on PHP, I never have worked on Laravel or something, but if given a project that I'm interested in and I want to build, I can still build it. I mean, so that's how I usually learn anything. Jay Santosh says that Alexander Wang is a billionaire with data science. Yeah, I mean, there would be people, but he's an exception. Do you think he's average with data science? Do you think he only learned data science for money, for a good salary? It's a simple question. Lakshmikant says that I got dropped out from college in 2016 and would be considered as high school pass out. All I can find is BPO jobs on internet. Can I completely rely on your bootcamp to land into a better job? You can completely rely on your hard work. I would be here to guide you. I would be here to build content. I would be here to, answer questions and, resolve your queries and doubts and make sure that you're learning those things that are going to get you a job. But if you're not like putting in the hard work to get good at those things, then you cannot rely on entirely on my bootcamp. You have to rely on your hard work. You have to rely on your belief. You have to rely on your self confidence. You have to rely on yourself. Can I learn both WebDev and DevOps at the same time? What's the point? I mean, learn one thing first and then move to the second thing. Don't mix up things here and there. It's not a good idea to learn two things simultaneously. I mean, as long as it's not DSA. So DSA is something that you should usually do for 1 hour or 2 hours daily, right? You should practice that much, especially if you're trying to get a job. Uh, you should try to maintain that practice of doing DSA 1 or 2 hours daily, not more than that, because that never helps. The idea to be good at DSA is to play the long term game. I mean, I see a lot of people who just spend 2 months, 3 months dedicated entirely to DSA, but that doesn't kinds of work out, because then you would be extremely good with DSA, but what after that? I mean, there are hardly many jobs that are purely based on DSA. They require some development skills, right? They would require you to have some skills in maybe web development, mobile development, DevOps, data science, something like that. But yeah, I mean, you cannot just entirely depend on DSA. So DSA is something that you can do parallelly with anything like web development or DevOps, mobile development, whatever it is. But don't pick these two development things together, web dev and DevOps. They are not going to work out. Mukund Malik says, I dropped from college in second year to support family and did job in another field, but side by side I explored web dev and learn it and make some projects. Can I get job? Yeah, I mean, obviously. In fact, I mean, what matters is that you play your story right. I mean, you are someone who dropped out of college in your second year, right, and you did a side job and explored web development along with it. So make it your strength, right? What is this entire thing that you have done? You have showcased immense work ethics. You have showcased immense dedication and hard work, right? You need to make sure that you are communicating these things as they should be communicated to any interviewer or any employer that you are wanting to get hired from, right? So I mean, you like, whatever you do, just try to find some qualities that you really applied in those things, and then try to communicate those qualities to the people who are responsible for hiring. Can you please suggest job board size to apply on apart from LinkedIn for remote jobs? Uh, in my Discord server, there is a channel known as resources, and in that resources, we have a member in our community who shared, one thread, Twitter thread or something, and that has about 21 such websites. So you can go check that out to see where all you can apply. There are the good jobs posted there, so you can check that out. Akshay asked that, bro, in your bootcamp SQL database included? Yes, there is. Hamish asked that, is it a good idea to do a part-time remote software jobs while in college? Yes, yes, part-time software jobs while college, right, is a very good idea, because that is going to like add into your experience, right? No one is going, like when people usually ask for experience, have you ever seen anyone asking that was it a part time or a full time job? People are hardly asked that. I mean, so I mean it's a win win situation that you're getting to do a part time job along with the, getting a degree in college. So definitely go for that. No questions. How to find company which gives opportunity to college dropouts? Uh, networking is a big thing that is going to get you a lot of opportunities from companies and people who don't care about degrees and stuff like that. As I like explained in one of my videos, there are still some companies who are trying to adapt this self-taught learner thing where people don't have degree and stuff like that, but just because of having some HR based constraints or policy based constraints in the company, they won't be able to hire you as such, right? But if you showcase them that I'm good at something, then I mean they are making the changes, but there are a lot of startups and things like that that are hiring. It's just that these startups, since they operate on a small scale, then they are not as widely famous as these other big companies, right? And to reach out, to make sure that you get opportunities from such startups and stuff, you need to network a lot, because there are like every other person knows someone in their circle who is running a startup and who is looking for developers, right? So the more people you reach out to, you are going to get an opportunity sometime or the other. Right, it's like a collective effort. I mean, it does not works like you are just very good at skills and you don't network enough, or you networked a lot but you don't have skills, things like that. Right, it's a collective effort. As long as you get each and everything right, you are going to get the opportunities. But you have to make sure that you're growing in every aspect. It's not like you're just growing in tech or you're just growing socially, building your network. You need to, find the right balance between all the three things. Think of it as a company, right? If let's say there is a company and that company has excellent tech, they have an excellent product, right? But I mean, they are not able to market it. So I mean, still it's a waste of everything, right? And if let's say there's a company who is excellent at marketing, who is able to reach out to hundreds of lakhs of users, but they have a very crappy product, then again it's not going to work out, right? So they need to find the right balance of a good tech and a good marketing team that is there, right? So it's similar in this case. You need to be good with tech, you need to have good skills in tech, but you should also be socially active enough that you're reaching out to more people. Only then would you be able to start getting opportunities, right? Rishikesh asked that, do I need to learn development for DevOps? I've already answered that in a video. It kind of depends on you. There are some people who do DevOps without having a knowledge of web development, and it's kind of not necessary, but having the knowledge of development along with DevOps is going to um increase your chances of getting hired like tenfold, right? Even with medium skills, even with mediocre average skills, you are still going to be in a better position than someone who just knows one of the two, until and unless they are really good, right? So if you're just going with DevOps or web development, then be extremely good at that. If not, then you know having both the things in your belt, I mean, knowing web development and DevOps is going to immensely increase your chances. Because I mean, I've personally seen a lot of companies and a lot of the requirements, the candidate requirements that they post asking for both web development and DevOps, right? So I mean, I feel that both of them is a good complementary to each other, and they go well and increase your chances tenfold of getting hired. But again, the decision is up to you. Mohammed asked that how to deal with people copying us while we are learning something new, and they excel us in learning as they have more grasping power in that particular thing, and we get demotivated. uh, so I mean, how can anyone copy you in learning something? I mean, it cannot be that you're learning something that is only specific to you, right? I mean, resources are available everywhere for everything in today's time, in the era of internet, in the era of YouTube, right? Resources are available everywhere. So I mean, I've answered it in one of my videos as well. You should not compare yourself to anyone else, right? You should not see that that person is learning much faster than me, or that person is better than me. He's solving problems faster, he's getting a job, he got a job in second year, he got a job in third year. मेरे को फोर्थ ईयर करके भी 2 साल हो गए, जॉब नहीं लग रही. You should not do those kind of things. Only compare yourself to your yesterday's self, right? Try to compete with yourself, right? Try to be a better person every other day, right? Every new day, try to be a better person. Try to make sure that you are better than what you were yesterday, right? And that way you're not going to get demotivated, because every day you are going to get better, and every day you are going to have that new sort of dedication and feeling that I like, you won't be in the state of demotivation like any day if you compete yourself with yourself, right? If you compete yourself with others, then definitely it can be demotivating sometimes, but no one recommends that, right? Raj Parekh says that I've learned backend with Java and Spring Boot for database MySQL, but most remote jobs require 2 years of experience, and it takes for freshers to land a remote job. Yeah, I mean, the first step that is there is build a portfolio. Second step that is there is to just have a single page resume, right? Because no recruiter is ever going to spend more than 5 6 seconds on your resume. They just, take a look at your resume. If it is tad boring to, the layout is boring and stuff like that, they usually just skip, because they have hundreds of resumes to go through. So make your resume a bit attractive, a bit catchy, right? Make sure that you add the right keywords. Try to highlight those keywords in your resume, because whenever someone takes a look at your resume, if they find a particular keyword that interests them, that is directly associated with the job that they're hiring for, then definitely they are going to give it a read. I mean, that particular line a read. If they like it, then they are going to make sure that you proceed to the first round, which is the like the normal HR round, or maybe a DSA round or something like that, right? So that is the second thing. Third thing is to build soft skills, right? And soft skills come in a lot of ways. You should be able to write good emails, right? You should be excellent with your communication skills, right? You should be clear and concise about whatever you speak, right? Make sure that everyone understands what you're speaking. And you should be able to demonstrate some time management skills. Maybe you did two things in parallel. So as Hamis asked earlier in this session, that is it a good idea to do part-time job with college? In a sense, you are also showcasing any recruiter, if you are doing that, that you are good at time management, because you are managing your college life as well as your part-time job both together, right? So that showcase your soft skill of time management as well. And do some be a part of communities, and try to take up some leadership roles in those communities, that shows any recruiter that you're a good leader. You can be a good leader if need be, right? And things like that. If you do get all those things right, and if you like network a lot, and learn in public, then definitely uh, it would be a lot easier to get a remote job. Is there any machine learning remote job? Remote job, it's not like remote jobs are only in DevOps or web dev or mobile dev or things like that. In today's time, remote jobs are even there in marketing fields as well. Right? So tech mein to har field, I mean, whatever fields are there in tech, every field has a remote job. राइट. सो इट्स नॉट लाइक इस फील्ड में रिमोट जॉब है उसमें नहीं है. सेल्स में रिमोट जॉब है यार, मतलब कुछ कुछ स्टार्टअप्स एंड दे आर ऑफरिंग सेल्स जॉब, like sales people remote jobs as well. So if I mean roles like sales and operations and marketing, these kinds of roles can get remote job, then machine learning is a technical role, right? Tech में तो I mean there are a lot of remote jobs. How long have you been in your job? What do you mean? I have almost 4 years of, more than 4 years of experience, almost five. So if that's what you are asking, but my experience is doubled up in a sense, because in these 4 years that I'm talking about, not even a single month was there when I just did one thing at a time. Most often than not, I was associated with two, if not three, startups at the same time, or two or three companies at the same time, right? So I was not like violating any of their policies, because like my team knew that I was doing other things as well, and I that is the one of the main reasons why I always like to work contractually instead of getting a full time job, because in contractually no one can put a clause on me that I cannot do two or three things at the same time, right? So yeah, I mean, I have 4+ years of experience, if that's what you mean to ask, and I have worked with a lot of startups and companies in during that time. Aditya Narayan asked that I get lots of DMs, all say that you have a great profile, but at the end, when they know I don't have any degree after clearing interview, also they denied to take me. Does CK certification would work for me? I'm not sure about certification because I don't have like even a single certification under my belt. But it's good that they didn't take you, because if your employer, I mean your potential employer, is someone who cannot value skills over a degree, then I mean, it's not anyway not worth it to work for them. I like encountered one. I encountered one company like in my very early days. There was this company. I think they were based out of Jaipur or something, right? And they had this job requirement posted with a question posted as well, and they said that whoever answers that question, like whoever is able to solve that problem, we are going to proceed further with your application and potentially hire you as well, right? The role was for someone who has 3+ years of experience, and I had 0 years of experience, right? And it was someone who has a degree, I had no degree, right? And I like went through their job posting. I like that question kind of interests me, and I attempted that question. I completed that question. I solved that question. It was a decryption question. I mean, they gave me an encrypted key and they wanted me to decrypt it, right? So the original solution for that decryption, like decrypting that key, I did some calculation and I calculated that the amount of time that it would have taken me to like decrypt that thing um, was about 70,000 years. Like if I run it on any computer, it is going to take that much amount of time. But the catch was that I needed to write an algorithm, like build an algorithm by eliminating edge cases and things like that in such a way that it's going to get solved in like the final solution that I had, decrypted it in 20 minutes, right? Because I removed a lot of edge cases by using some logic and things like that. So I mean, I solved it and I gave them the solution. The solution was that I mean, they had this encrypted key, and the decryption was that the name of the company wants you, right? So that was the message, the hidden message that was like there. And I think the name of the company was or I should not take the name of the company, but it was like this company wants you. That was the message, and I submitted it to them, and they told me that like they appreciated me that you solved it and you are like the first candidate who solved it and things like that. And then they asked me, do you have a degree? And I said no. And they said that we cannot hire you. Right. So I gave an earful to their HR that you're asking for someone who has at least 3 years of experience, has a degree and things like that. I qualify in all of those things. And you know I mean, I don't have a degree, but I still qualify, right? I don't have 3 years of experience, but I still have the necessary skills to like do any work that you ask me for. So even after so many things, if you cannot hire me based on my potential and deny me the job, based on I don't have a degree and stuff like that, then I anyway don't want to work with you guys. And I gave an earful and got to hear it 3 months later that they reached out to me again saying that we don't ask for degree anymore. Do you want to join? And I said no. Because I mean, like I couldn't fathom the fact that they could deny me just because I don't have a degree. And they changed their policy because of me. So yeah, I mean, good things, might take some time. It might sound demotivating that people are reaching out to you. They are telling you that your profile is good, but as soon as they get to know that you don't have a degree, they, are not interested anymore. These kind of things sound demotivating, but just think of it in a sense that it saved you from a very big catastrophe that could have happened, you know, otherwise if you worked in that company. Gay says that I want to able to animate and make good websites but can't even make a responsive website. Well, I think by the end of next week you would be able to make good enough responsive websites if you follow my course. I think by the end of next week, yeah. So I have a tentative timeline in mind. I think by 20th June or something we would like be already done with some basic HTML and CSS stuff, and around 20th June or something we would already have started with Python, and Linux has 3 more videos left which are going to be completed this week, right? So I am from DTU. I am currently in my first year. I am from biotechnology branch. I want to become an SDE. What should I do? Will I face discrimination because of my branch? No, you won't. I don't face discrimination for not having a degree. You at least have a degree, right? So no one is going to discriminate you. Next says that I am a data science student in fourth year India and I have an internship offer from bad company. Does that internship count as work experience while applying for data science roles after college? I didn't understand your question. Well, if you're saying that the offer itself counts as an experience, then no, definitely not. But you can use that offer letter or email or whatever it is to, tell other companies that I received an offer from so and so company and I rejected that. So are you offering me a better pay? Right? You can use that in that sense. Kuldeep says that hello sir, I'm a third year civil engineering background. I want to take job in tech companies. So what roadmap can I follow? What skills required? Please suggest me right direction. My roadmap is already posted. I wouldn't recommend any other roadmap. And if you would have noticed, my roadmap is very different from the conventional roadmaps that you see. And there's a very strong reason for that. The reason why my roadmap is a lot different from what other people's usually teach you is because I mean I am someone who had no idea about tech. I am someone who wasn't doing a degree, and like I mean, I literally had not like no sort of a support, right? No one to guide me or things like that. I had a few people, but I didn't like used to rely on them much, that they are going to be the ones who are going to get me a job or teach me or things like that. I was a self explorer kind of a thing, and I mean, when I look at my journey, right, the roadmap that I've posted is completely based out on my journey, right? And when I look at that, and when I look at the roadmaps that other people, make for web development, it's usually the basic stuff. I don't even have to go through the web. I can tell you that it's generally just HTML and then CSS, and then they tell you to learn some Bootstrap, then some JavaScript, then some framework, build a lot of projects, and oh, you're ready for a job. You're a web developer suddenly. It doesn't works like that. I mean, I it goes completely beyond my head how someone can become a software engineer through that, because I mean it's not that simple, right? And I mean, there are a lot of cons of going through that route, because I mean, those are the people, they usually talk about the stacks that their company, that most of the companies are looking for nowadays. It's true that there are a lot of jobs available in Mount stack, right? But the roadmap that I have built, right, from that getting into Munch stack is like super easy. I mean, you do this roadmap, it's hardly going to take you 1 month extra after doing this roadmap to be like extremely good with Munch stack as well. Right, and that is the point that people don't understand. I mean, just think about it. You would build such a strong foundation about how backend is written. You would build such a strong foundation about how front end is done, that any stack after that is just going to be a joke for you. Right, and if you directly go with Munstack and things like that, then the problem is that JavaScript works asynchronously. And since JavaScript works asynchronously, I've seen so many people getting with such basic syntax related errors, that they are not able to learn and focus on the bigger picture that is out there, like how the backend actually works, or how the what is the philosophy of this entire React, like what is the React life cycle, and how the how things work in React and things like that. So I mean, that's why it is designed in a way, because once you do this, and I've like in even in the roadmap itself, in even in that video I've mentioned, and after that I would be specifically teaching Node.js and Django as well. But I like, just because I've been through that path, I know how easy it is going to be for you to understand like Node.js and get really good with it really fast, right? And the way, I mean, we are going to transition from Python based backend to JavaScript based backend and things like that, it is going to, in a sense, also teach you how you can start exploring other technologies as well. If let's say after that point of time you think that okay, now I want to start coding in Golang, or I now want to start coding with Ruby on Rails or Rust or whatever it is, whatever language you want to start coding with, it will start making sense to you how you can easily switch between languages, right? Within 2 weeks you can get started with any language that is there. But for that you need to have the fundamentals right, right? So I mean, that is there. So I mean, that is the only roadmap that I am going to suggest. But again, I mean, it's your decision. It's up to you. Is JavaScript really hard? It has some confusing elements, but it's not that hard. I mean, like if it's more about visualizing. So I mean, how I try to learn new things is that I try to visualize, different stuff that is there, right? And I mean, that is the way I've been trying to teach as well, and I'll continue to do that. I'll like help you visualize the entire thing, how it works behind the scenes and things like that. And once, I mean, we start doing that same thing for JavaScript or any other stuff, any other technology that is there, then it is going to, uh, you know, uh, it's not going to feel like it's difficult or hard, JavaScript. Gaurav says that I'm in sixth semester computer science. I'm currently doing an internship, which is good, but they have huge projects and early deadlines. I sometimes lose interest in coding due to this. Should I leave it and self study? Well, I think it's a good learning opportunity. You shouldn't like think of it as something that is waste of time, because if they are giving you projects and they are giving you shorter deadlines for that, then what they are expecting out of you is that you push your limits, right? You learn fast and you deliver on time, and they're obviously going to be there to provide you with feedback as well. So you should take it as an opportunity that is going to help you learn. And having an internship which gives you huge projects and short deadlines, uh, I think it's better than self study in a sense. I mean, I would have stuck with that instead of doing self study if I had that kind of an opportunity in my early days. How to connect with people, how to build networking, I've already answered that. Is DSA in Java really important if I can do it in Python? Uh, I feel that DSA is something that you can do in any language. It's not important if you do it in Java or if JavaScript or C++ or Python. Doesn't really matter. Most of the companies that are out there ask you to choose which language do you want to solve this question in. So you can do it in Python if you think you're more comfortable with Python, if you like Python. Raja Prabhu asked that I have some good knowledge in Django and Python. Now focusing more on JS, as I get a lot of syntactical errors and doubts and DSA and following your tutorials. Any suggestions on this? Uh, Yeah, I mean, it's good if you already know Django and Python, then it's good. After Python, I mean, learning JavaScript is a good thing because you are going to catch it up pretty fast. And Python is easy to learn. I mean, it's very easy to learn. So few people ask that why not complete the entire thing in JavaScript. One of the major reasons is that it makes you more dynamic, right? And Python is very easy to learn. It's superhuman readable, and you're doing DSA, make sure that you only spend about 1 or 2 hours in DSA at most any day. Because if you overdo it, then again, I mean, you will start feeling over the time that you're, not investing as much time in your development in JavaScript or things like that. So you'll like pause DSA for some time, start doing JavaScript. After doing JavaScript, when you look back at DSA, you would have forgotten most of the things, because DSA is all about practice. When you lose practice for even a month, then after getting back to DSA, you would feel like you have like lost a lot of progress that you made earlier. Along with full stack web development, minimum DevOps skills required to get job. Uh, I'm not sure how much DevOps is required, but whatever I am going to include in this bootcamp for DevOps is going to be more than enough. Might do a bootcamp dedicatedly on DevOps, might, after completing WebDev, but it depends. Nick asked that how can a full stack developer contribute in GitHub? There are a lot of open source. There are a lot of projects actually that are available. So you must have seen that whenever you're doing some full stack development, there are a lot of JavaScript CDN libraries that you use, maybe JavaScript, CSS, something like that. You include a lot of scripts and you include a lot of style sheets, right? So find the GitHub repositories of those libraries and find issues in those libraries, solve them, right? It's as simple as that. Clever Coder Joy asked that is it possible to get a job with just basic DSA and without doing the usual lead coding stuff, provided that the candidate has knowledge and some good projects on web development? Well, if you are good with web development and you're going for a web development role, then honestly you don't need to have excellent DSA skills. You should have about medium amount of DSA skills, where you're able to solve easy to medium level questions, not extremely hard questions or anything like that, because those questions anyway don't come in interviews. And DSA is something that is not as heavily used in web development as well, because the most DSA that you would be using in web development ever is going to be when you're building some functionality that needs data in a particular structure, and in you need to you're receiving it in a particular structure and converting into a particular structure before sending it as a response in the API. If you're doing that kind of a stuff, then since you're restructuring data and things like that, then you need to build a good algorithm around it, identify what type of data structure do you want to use for it, right? And those are usually the scenarios where DSA comes into picture, but they are not like very hard to solve problems, right? So you won't be needing a lot of DSA. You don't have to be excellent in DSA. Medium level DSA is good enough for web development roles. Is this like going to be saved? Yes, it is going to be there on my channel. Is Turing good for remote job search? What's your opinion? Yeah, Turing is a decent platform. Right, I had one person who reached out to me. So Turing on their website says that any developer who is applying in their platform should have at least 3 years of experience, and a lot of freshers don't apply. But I recently had a fresher who was like really good with web development, and he applied on Turing, and they like rejected his application because he was not having 3 years of experience. So I recommended him to write an email to the team of Turing, telling them that you're really exceptional and they should consider, right? And they considered and he got hired, right? So Turing is a good platform and you can definitely try applying there. Even if you don't have 3 years of experience, you should be good. If you are good enough, then they might consider you and you might get hired. I just like recently had someone pinging me like every other day trying to get into Turing, and I'm glad he finally got into Turing. Why is empty array truthy in JS but returns false in Python? I'll answer that in the tutorial, not in the live. How much do you sleep? Uh, I have long sleeping sessions, so I usually it's usually for me it's like I stay up for about 18-20 hours, something like that, and then when I sleep for 8-9 hours, 10 hours sometimes, even 12 sometimes. So I have a pretty weird schedule, but that's usually how I work. Can I build a social networking app like Reddit only by using Flutter plus Firebase? Yeah, definitely you can build that. Like, if anyone says no, then are you not going to try it? Hi Apoorv, how to find remote jobs? Already answered that. What are some good organizations or community for web development? I'll have to look into it. I mean, I am not a part of any organization or community that are specifically for web development. So I'll have to see, or if anyone else can answer this. If you know any good organizations or community for web development, then please do mention them in the chat. How to escape tutorial hell? I made a 12 minutes video on that. You can go check that out. Okay, so there is this one question that people ask a lot about, and it's about consistency, like how to bring that consistency, in learning. Maybe you lose motivation, maybe you it might be that you lose motivation, or you might get distracted or things like that, right? Even Girish asked that how to build that elite mentality like yours, like complete the task in time, learn without getting distracted, staying focused on the goal. I often find myself getting distracted. So just stick around to one thing, right? um, there are some good habits that you can build, right? And these this dedication and sticking around and consistency, it's like a habit, and it kind of takes time to build, right? So I mean, just think about it in this sense that the new year resolutions that we build, right? How many times do we break them? Like, has there anyone out of you, is there anyone out of you who has ever completed your New Year resolution? We don't do it, right? Because we try to kind of overpromise what we are trying to do, and then we are not able to deliver it, right? So the basic thing is that you build an habit, right? And you try to make sure that you are just sticking to that habit for at least 30 minutes or 1 hour each and every day, and gradually increase that time, right? So if you're, let's say, trying to build consistency in your learning or something like that, then one thing that you can do is, I'm already doing a boot camp, right? And I am someone who does not have any problem with consistency. I don't have consistency issues. So I'm going to, like, create videos consistently and keep moving the boot camp consistently forward, right? So one thing that you can do is, you can keep watching my videos as soon as they come, because then you're not going to have any sort of backlog with you, right? And once you start developing backlog, then it needs a good amount of planning to clear that backlog, right? So I mean, you can keep following the videos as soon as they come. So I am pretty consistent with my approach. I would keep consistently uploading videos. But if you are, if this one habit that you built, that as soon as, let's say, I upload a video, or some other channel, if let's say you're following some other YouTuber, right, and they upload a video and you're really interested in their content, as soon as they upload, just go watch their video, right? Because they are being consistent, and since you gradually develop this habit that as soon as this person uploads a video or something like that, I'm going to watch it. In turn, it is going to help you in improving your consistency as well, right? Because then you are going to stick to that one thing, just one thing, right? That this YouTuber uploaded a video and I need to watch it. It could be me, it could be someone else, right? Whoever you like, just go watch as soon as they upload, and it will help you in bringing that consistency. Gradually, you would start like investing more time into your learning, because when you watch those videos, then you won't be having any backlog. And if you don't have any backlog, if let's say someone asks you to build something or create something, then you're going to eventually start spending more and more time into it. And I mean, sometimes you need to plan your stuff well as well. A few people, ask me, how do, let's say, plan things, right? So I again say that it's kind of a habit, but I break it down for you, like, how do I plan stuff? So and I did, like, there was a session, like, recently there was a session hosted on my Discord server, and a lot of people, like, joined that, and there also I shared the same strategy, right? So how I usually plan my things is that I usually take a goal in mind, like an end goal, like, okay, this is the thing that I want to achieve by this time, right? Like, this is the thing that I want to achieve, and I bind it by a timeline, right? So it's not like it's a bland goal. So in my very first video, I talked about that when I was starting out, I had the simple goal in mind that I want to make more than 1 lakh plus in a month, right? And I had this goal, right? And I'm sure that most of you are going to have this sort of a goal, that you want to make this much amount of money, right, in a single month, right? You want to be, like, eligible enough to be able to do that, right? So you would be having this sort of goal, but the problem is that this goal usually does not have any timeline associated with it, right? So if it does not have any timeline associated with it, then you would always keep slacking around, right? You would always feel that abhi to yaar bahut time hai. Like I usually have a lot of time, so I mean, aaj man nahi kar raha, kal se karenge. I don't want to do it today. Let's do it from tomorrow, and that tomorrow would never come, right? We would have like heard about it in a lot of places that tomorrow never comes usually, right? So bind it by a timeline. You have a goal that I want to let's say it could be anything. I want to learn this thing. I want to, let's say, learn Python, right? And I want to learn it in this much amount of time. So when you bind that time around with it, then I mean, you have an entire picture in front of you that this is your goal and you have to achieve it in this much amount of time. Now, once you have that, right, it's pretty simple from there. I mean, for me personally, if let's say I have that sort of a goal that I want to, I already answered that, Nick. You don't have to ask again and again. So, if let's say I have that sort of a goal that, I want to create, like make that amount of money in 1 year, right? Now I know that I have 1 year to achieve this, right? What is the next thing that I want to do? I'm going to break it down into smaller chunks, right? I'm going to like break it down into, let's say, chunks of 3 months, right? And I have four chunks available in front of me, like chunk one, 2, 3, and 4. And then what I'll do is I'll try to break these chunks down into more smaller pieces. Let's say I break this 3 months chunk down into 1 month, right? And from 1 month I break it down into 4 weeks, like weekly, right? And then from weekly I break it down into daily, like what am I going to do daily? And then from daily I break it down into hourly, what I'm going to do hourly, right? So this is usually how I plan. Even if you look at the boot camp, right, the bootcamp roadmap video that I posted, you would notice that I created 4 phases for that entire bootcamp. Right now, I had a plan in mind. I had a simple vision in mind that these are the things that these are the skills and these are the things that I want to teach in, let's say, 1 year. Right, and the simple thing that I did was I simply broke it down into four parts, four smaller chunks, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And I mean, ideally, I'm just considering that each and every phase is going to take about 3 months or something. Might be a little more, might be a little less, right? It's not like just to complete that timeline of 3 months, I'm going to compromise on quality or something. But that is the rough idea that I have in my mind, that like 3 months is going to be like given to each and every phase, and by the end of like 1 year, I'm like I would make sure that you have this much amount of skills and are eligible for this much amount of job, right, that is paying you that much amount of money, right? So now I have these three chunks, right? Now I had a very like defined goal for each and every month as well. After I broke it down into the four chunks of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, now I have like divided it on how I want to proceed it with it on monthly basis, and then from monthly basis I've broken it down into how I want to proceed with it on weekly basis, right? And when I have that weekly goal in front of me that I want to do it like this much thing in week, just give me 1 minute. I think I'm going to. I had to put him on timeout, asking the same question again and again. Yeah. So I was saying that now, since I have a weekly goal in front of me, that what do I want to do each and every week, right? Now I simply know like what is my daily agenda, because once I have this goal, like weekly goal in front of me, I can break it down into the daily tasks, right? And now each and every day when I have a task in front of me, I usually break it down into hours. Like today I'm going to spend these many hours in this task, these many hours in that task, right? I break it down into that, and when I'm working on something, the only end goal that I have in my mind is to only focus on the task that is at hand. Later on, whatever happens, I mean, इसके बाद मुझे जो भी करना है, whatever I have to do after this, whatever I have to do tomorrow, whatever do I have to do this week, next week, whatever I have to do next month or next year or whatever it doesn't matter to anymore, matter to me anymore. The only thing I'm focused at, just because I broke it down, up until what I want to achieve in this particular hour, just because I broke it down, the only thing that matters to me is that I need to complete what I'm trying to do in this particular hour, right? And as soon as I achieve it, then only then do I, think about, yeah, I mean, I've already done this, so what should I do next, right? So, and that's usually how we solve any problem as well. Whatever problem you have in front of me, like you, the first thing that you would want to do is you want to break it down into as smaller chunks as you can, right? And when you break it down into smaller chunks, then you try to refine those chunks as much as you can, right? When these chunks get very small, like as small as they can be, when they cannot be broken down into more problems, then what you want to do is you want to, simply pick up these smaller chunks one by one. You want to, start finishing them off. And then, I mean, as a whole, get the solution of your entire problem that you are trying to solve, right? Even in software development we do that. I mean, whenever we are trying to build a functionality, it's not like we just take the entire functionality into picture. We just like take a whiteboard, a pen or a paper, we just write down that functionality, break it into in smaller parts, as small as we can, and then try solving those problems one by one, those smaller problems one by one, because solving those smaller problems then leads us to solving that bigger problem as a whole, right? So that is how you should usually, plan ahead of you, how you want to, like, what you, for the first thing is what you want to achieve, the second thing is how much time do you want to achieve it in, and then the third thing is to break it down, like what do I need to do to achieve this, right? And once you have broken it down, only focus on the task at hand. Forget about everything else, forget about what you want to do tomorrow, forget about what you want to do next week, next month, whatever it is, forget about everything. Your only problem at this moment, at this point of time, is the problem that you're solving right now, right? No matter what, however small it is. If let's say you overspill the time, if let's say you had a problem that you had to solve today itself, but you kind of didn't, like, couldn't do it today itself, and you like uh, spilled it a little bit into tomorrow, then try to solve it tomorrow. And once you have done it, then try to, replan the entire thing, that okay, now I wasted an extra day, and now, I mean, how do I, what are the things that I can eliminate out of my entire plan to still achieve it, right? So that's how you usually do. And just by having some time associated with it, if let's say you spent an entire week procrastinating, right? And it's pretty common, I mean, anyone can procrastinate, it's not like I don't procrastinate, I also do it sometimes, right? So anyone can do that. But if let's say, you spend an entire week, waste an entire week procrastinating, the next week going forward, the kind of, guilt that you're going to feel in the back of, your mind, that yaar ek hafta waste kar diya, I could have achieved this thing in 1 week, or now I, my deadline is achieving, I wanted to achieve this by this time, but just because I wasted a week, now, I am not, won't be able to, do it, but I still want to do it. So that is going to push you, right? It's not going to be like you are going to procrastinating for a long time or longer durations of time. You might still procrastinate, but those durations are going to be very short. It's like you are going to just procrastinate for a day or two, and then you'll get right back to track. But if you don't have these goals and you don't have a timeline associated with this goal, then you tend to procrastinate for a lot of time. Then you might, go on to procrastinate for an entire month, and then realize that yaar ek mahina waste kar diya. And it happens a lot, right? So don't worry about that. But just try to plan it well, right? Try whatever your goals are, try to plan it well, plan it in a sense that you are breaking that down into as smaller problems as you can. Just pick one problem at a time, just dedicate, the entire time in solving that one problem without worrying about anything else, right? And that is how you usually plan. And talking about consistency, again, just pick any one YouTuber. It could be me, it could be someone else. As long as they drop a video, watch it then and there. That is going to gradually build a habit for you. That is going to bring consistency in you. And when you, like follow it for a certain amount of time, maybe a month or two, you would start noticing that your consistency has increased tenfold. Uh, and I'm 20. 23 years old. I was born in 1998. This year I will turn 24. Can Android developer who do Android dev in Kotlin apply for jobs who ask for Flutter or React Native? Uh, I don't think so. You should at least have some basic knowledge of React Native or Flutter, and you should be good with JavaScript and Dart. There might be some exceptions, some people who still get the job, but most of the cases no. Can I get a good job with only web dev skills and no DSA? You can get good jobs in very early stage startups who don't judge anyone on DSA skills, because as you know, a startup starts growing and as they start hiring aggressively, then they need to introduce multiple rounds to filter out candidates, and to filter out candidates then they start introducing the DSA rounds. So you can still get job without DSA with good web dev skills, but only in super early stage startups. Can't manage college with working on my skill set. Taking leaves and can't perform well in exams. What to do? Can't manage college with working on my skill set. I don't know. I mean, just try to save some extra time. You should not like you should not sideline your exams, because if you don't perform well in exams, then that is going to hurt your CGPA. And if you have a low CGPA, then anyway having a degree is doesn't matter, right? So I mean, if you invested a lot of time in college already in things like that, then at least try to get some decent CGPA, 6 to 7, something like that. And whatever extra time that you save after prioritizing your college exams, that spend on self studies and building your skill set. And once the exams are over, then you can probably shift gear and spend more time self studying than you know doing stupid college stuff. Yeah, that's a very good thing. So clever coder Joy says that what I have discovered, that positive visual feedbacks are really helpful. So while studying, I use the Pomodoro technique, and to build consistency, I keep pushing my code to GitHub daily. So GitHub streak is one way how you can maintain consistency, because getting to see that number grow each and every day might push you to be more and more consistent over time, right? Those get up green blocks and constantly ticking of all the clocks in front of me makes me realize that all the time while studying that I am being tracked, and we work better while we track ourselves. Yeah, definitely. Apoorv, what do you expect from a person following your bootcamp? Hard work. And the only thing I expect is hard work. If you are not doing hard work, then I cannot help you. What happens if you can't complete your early task? Well, as I said, I mean, if I'm not able to complete it, I'll still try to do it as fast as I can. And as soon as I complete it, I would just reevaluate my entire week, see if I can still complete it by putting in some extra hours. If not, then I'll try to eliminate something that is not as important and try to get as much done as I can. And then cover up in the next few tasks, because I mean it's not like each and every task that you're going to have to achieve your goal is going to be difficult. Some are going to be easy, some are going to be difficult, right? So, and obviously I mean you cannot uh, plan your things with the 15 16 hours of work schedule, right? You would usually plan your day with a maximum of 7 to 8 hours of work schedule. So obviously I mean some days, if let's say it takes you more time, then you can obviously push that 8 hours to 10 hours or 12 hours, something like that. Bro, solution for tutorial hell, I created a video on that. um, 12 minutes video. uh, how to learn coding fast, I think was the title. How important is it to learn Linux? So it's going to like help you understand so many things going forward, because then you are going to be able to relate stuff, right? I mean, so many times you must have seen LinkedIn and all these platforms. People usually engage with so many posts with which they are able to relate to, right? I mean, LinkedIn has not like stayed as a professional platform in the past few years, I would say, because there are so many sympathy posts and things like that getting posted there each and every day, and people are just building crap stories to gain some engagement and things like that. But the reason why these posts get a lot of engagement is that people are able to relate with them, right? So same goes in learning. When you are able to relate with certain things that you already know, right, then you start learning it in a better way, right? We a lot of times we usually call a course good and we call a course bad, because this good course might be explaining you in things with certain analogies, right? Certain analogies that you might be able to relate to, which is making it easier for you to understand stuff, right? So if let's say we talk about DevOps, or let's say we talk about web development, the kind of functionalities that we are trying to build, we are trying to build it in the same way how Linux works internally, but we are just doing it at a higher level, right? Linux is just working at a more lower level than your application, right? So if you know Linux, then you would be able to better understand when you start building these functionalities and things, when you start getting into DevOps, when you start getting into web development. It DevOps, though, I mean, for DevOps, Linux is extremely essential. Cannot emphasize on that. But even for web development, when you start relating this high level things with low level things, that okay, yeah, this is how it works in Linux as well, so now I think I'm able to understand that. That is going to help you in the longer run. And secondly, I mean, there are some tools that are very hard to run on Windows than comparatively running them on Linux, right? For example, I mean, going forward, when we start with Flask, when I'm going to uh, introduce PSQL, PostgreSQL, and build SQL based applications with Flask web applications, then I'm going to only include the installation and everything of SQL in Linux, because I myself don't know how to install it in Windows, nor do I want to explore it. And it's already pretty difficult to install and make work in Linux itself, right? So I mean, you are going to miss out on those kind of things. That is the reason why I introduced Linux. And Linux is something that should be promoted among students. You should uh, it urges you to get out of your comfort zone as well. Windows is something that you've been using since childhood. I mean, the first computer that you had was probably a Windows based PC, right? And I mean, it is something that you've been using since a very long time. So Linux kind of makes you get out of your comfort zone, which is very important if you want to grow. What are your thoughts as cybersecurity as a career? uh, Cybersecurity, I mean, there is scope for career there, right? I mean, there are a lot of people who work in app labs and things like that that create a lot of apps where people can exploit different things and learn about it. There are people who, do professional penetration testing and things like that to check, how breakable any website's code is. So it is good if you have interest, if you really have interest in cybersecurity and stuff. Again, Linux becomes essential for you if you're interested in cybersecurity, and it is a good career. I mean, I personally could never get my head around cybersecurity much, although it is interesting. It uses a lot of tools and things that I mean, I usually am uncomfortable in using, so I don't go with it. But I have a friend who is like pretty good with cybersecurity, so I mean, based on his experience, I can say that it's pretty interesting and it's a good field to be in. Please give your thought learning JavaScript. Well, JavaScript is something that makes you dynamic. It can be used to build games, it can be used to build websites, mobile applications, scripting, things like that. I mean, whatever you want to do, everything can be done with JavaScript. So it's a uh, definite to learn language. Also, most of the opportunities that are available in now today's times requires JavaScript in some way or the other. There will be full stack projects in the bootcamp also. Yes, definitely. How can I make a timeline for the goal? Already answered that. I mean, it depends on goal to goal. So, I mean, for me, the first, thing that I had in mind was I only planned for the first 3 months actually. I mean, initially, when I was starting out with my coding journey, I only planned for my first 3 months, and the plan was simple. I needed to build enough skills that could, help me in making my first money, right? And I did. I learned Python, I did a lot of scripting, and the first project that I built was a crypto trading bot. Shit hard project. I still remember that. Spent a lot of as I spent 21 days in trying to build that, and it's one of the most difficult projects that I've ever done. Uh, Not today. I mean, if I want to build it again, I would probably write a much better code just just one day. But back then it was very difficult for me because I didn't knew much about Python and multiprocessing and multi-threading and things that were used in that project. But still I built it. But that was my simple goal. Once I completed that goal, I pretty much got an idea of what things do I, need to learn to improve my chances of getting more projects and things like that. I worked on it, I got more projects, and I just kind of went with the flow. But I mean, each and every day, the one thing that I used to evaluate even while going with the flow was that am I closer to the final goal that I have in my mind? If yes, then good. If not, then I just used to like sit back and just look at each and everything and see, I mean, what step am I taking wrong and stuff like that. And then I used to make some changes to my plans and proceed accordingly. So this is something that you need to do. I mean, whatever you're planning, after interval of certain amounts of time, just sit back and think about whatever you are doing. Is it taking you closer to your goal or not? Right. Recommend some communities for data science and machine learning. I'll have to look. Not aware of any communities as of now. I have done my web development part. Can I do freelancing and how much can I learn? Well, how much can I learn? How do I answer that? I mean, if I tell you to just learn a little more, then how would you define that? I mean, there's no stop at learning. Right, even at this point of time, if I look at myself, I still have a lot to learn. I'm continuously learning. I learn each and every day of my life. Right, so the learning never stops. I mean, you cannot. Uh, okay, it says how much can I earn? Okay, I think I need to have some water before going forward. Okay, how much can I earn? So sorry, I read the question wrong. Um, Start with basic projects, right? I think I created a Twitter thread on this. Start with some very basic projects, like basic projects as in try to find projects. Since you have done web development, try to find projects that revolve around building some static websites and things like that. Try to keep your pricing competitive, right? It should not be like it's the lowest price that you can offer, but it should not be very high, because initially you won't be having any sort of reviews or work to showcase. If you have a portfolio, then good. I mean, you can probably charge a little bit higher. And initially, I mean, just think of freelancing as a way to manage your monthly expenses. Right. Initially, just think of it of managing your monthly expenses, right? And once you develop some confidence and you just understand the dynamics of freelancing, how freelancing works, how you communicate with the client and what are the requirements of thing and other things. Uh, how you deliver a project, how to submit a project, how to deal with a client in difficult situations and things like that. Once you are aware about all of those things, then you should probably try to go for more projects. And again, I mean, initially when you are starting out, you would have some trouble in trying to reach out clients, because I mean, even if let's say you're using some platform like Fiverr or Upwork or freelancer.com, anything like that, then those platforms heavily depend on bidding, right? And you need to get your bidding right to be able to bag a project. And I created a Twitter thread on that. Those Twitter threads should also be posted in my like in my Discord community, so you can go check that out on how to bid for a project. But initially, don't go for projects that are way beyond your skill set, right? Because initially, if you get a project that is way beyond your skill set and you're not able to complete it, right, then it is going to leave a bad review on your profile. And once you get a bad review on your profile, then you are not going to you can just assume that no one else is going to offer you projects, right? So just try to go for projects that are within your skill set, within your comfort zone, and gradually try to go for more higher paying projects. And for projects that are paying more money. Eventually, like initially, you can expect to earn about 10 to 15,000 in a month. If you earn more than that, then that's a very good thing. But if not, then don't be sad about it, because that's already a lot more than what other people earn. Thoughts on blockchain? Blockchain is a booming technology. Sure, I mean, sometime down the line, it's going to be definitely one of the key technologies of how applications are built, having things decentralized and things like that. And I'm talking not just in terms of fintech, but apart from fintech and other application, how they store their data and manage their data and things like that, even they are going to, I think, adopt blockchain technology eventually, the decentralized system and things like that. So blockchain is definitely something to explore. We might do it sometime down the line ourselves in this channel, because I have a certain interest in blockchain myself, right? But and I might do it later on. I'll have to study a little bit myself as well to get started with blockchain. But I'm pretty much interested in it, so we might do it on this channel itself. But it's definitely a go-to. I mean, if you want to get started with blockchain, then sure. I mean, it's only going to bring good things for you. What are the what are the basic salary that a remote job offers? Uh, I mean, there's no base salary. It's not like there is a minimum salary. There are salaries, as low as 4 or 5 LPA that are also remote, right? They are just regular jobs, but the companies, don't want to spend enough money in offices, so they ask you to work from home. They are also considered a remote job, but their pay is according to Indian standards, so they are also there. There's no minimum amount. Can I get 50K dollars remote job without degree in 1.5 years? Yeah, definitely. You just need to like make sure that you're moving in the right direction, because in 1.5 years, 50K can be done, but seems a little unconventional. Like seems a little bit of an overkill. Maybe you should aim for 35 to 40K dollars would be a more, that is something that I feel you can easily achieve. 50K is going to take lot more effort than usual. Ever experienced web pen testing field and your recommendations? No, I've never done the penetration testing in web development, but I've had my applications penetration tested, and some of them failed, some of them succeeded. Uh, right. So I don't have any such recommendations on that, because I mean cybersecurity is really not my field. Sorry. How to get started with open source in web dev? I've already answered. भैया फ्रंट एंड कब तक ख़त्म करवा दोगे आप इंटर्नशिप के लिए? I think at least you can think that it would at least take about 6 months to be somewhere good at front end, where we would have definitely have been started with React by then, but at least 6 months it's going to take, because I mean there are a lot of things in the pipeline currently. I need to like start Python, and then after Python I need to start first with the backend in Flask, and then after that I need to teach SQL, then I need to teach AWS on how to deploy your applications on Flask and things like that, and then I need to deep dive into JavaScript as well, and then we go into React. So there are a lot of things in the middle, but do we need to learn Figma for freelance stuff? Figma is a good tool to like get started with freelancing. You can get some basic UI UX projects and work on them using Figma. So it's an handy tool. I mean, down the line it's going to come in handy, but you need to have a good eye for building a good UI. I mean, if you just learn Figma but don't have a creative mind through which you can build a good UI to your to whatever you are building, then I mean it's not something that it's just a waste of time in those scenarios. But if you are creative in your approach and you can build good designs, then Figma is a good tool and can get you started with freelancing. I have to make mini project for college in 1 month. Any suggestions? Just look at what other people's build. I mean, there's no specific. If you have something in mind, go with that. If not, then there are a lot of videos on YouTube which are completely based on 5 projects to build for your final year. The clickbait ones. Jatin Soni says that 35K is possible. I saw a Reddit post of one guy got this job in 6 months. Web dev. He used to study 6 hours a day. He has his portfolio. Yeah, I mean, but you cannot compare your learning capability with his and your consistency with his, right? So, I mean, obviously, people do it in less amount of time as well, but I mean, I'm talking for any average person, not some extraordinary person or anything like that. I know what Figma is, Uncle Slayer. How to build personal brand on Twitter? So Siddharth asked that how to build a personal brand on Twitter. Just pick a theme, right? Just pick a theme on what kind of content do you want to post. usually on your Twitter handle, and stick to that, right? And you know gradually, just have short goals for that as well. So I mean, I think YK Dojo is a guy on Twitter, amazing guy, and he did a Twitter space recently, and he told about how you should pace your Twitter account, right? So he started with having a theme for your channel and for your Twitter account, and then start creating some threads and things like that, and gradually build an audience, right? And aim for about 100 followers in the first month, right? And then going forward, aim for 200 in the next month, 500 in the next month, 1000 in the next month, right? And then start going from that. And once you start getting a hang of it, then in the beginning it kind of looks difficult. I mean, 3 months from now, I didn't have a Twitter account or anything like that, and Kunal asked me to create a Twitter account कि भाई क्या कर रहा है ट्विटर पे आ कह के. So I created a Twitter account, and earlier I used to be very hesitant in posting anything on Twitter, tweeting anything on Twitter and things like that. And I was very hesitant about all of those things, and I mean, I wasn't very comfortable in using Twitter as such. But gradually, when I started posting and things like that, things automatically started making sense. Automatically started gaining consistency with it, and as soon as I started gaining some traction on my Twitter account, it just kind of started happening for me. Right, it wasn't like anything was planned for Twitter per se or anything, but it just kind of started happening. So I mean, just follow that same thing. At least start posting something. Eventually, when you'll start getting some traction, you will start gaining confidence. When you start gaining confidence, then definitely, I mean, you are going to um, start building a brand for yourself. And when you start building a brand for yourself, just one thing that you should always keep in mind is that check your facts. Whatever you are posting, whatever you are saying publicly or anything, just make sure that you are not wrong with whatever you're saying. You need to cross verify each and everything that you are trying to convey, because otherwise it might hurt your brand or hurt your credibility over time. But that is a good way of starting out. Like, have smaller goals, 100 in the first month, 200 in the second month, and then start growing from there. And if, let's say, you have multiple channels of promoting yourself, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, just like I have, right? If, let's say, you have multiple channels, then definitely your growth is going to be a little bit faster than usual, right? So for me, I mean, Kunal helped me in my initial days to gain that early traction, and from there I picked up, right? So you can also try to tag some people who have a good amount of following on any of these platforms. Try to get them to collaborate with you, maybe for a Twitter space or anything like that, right? From there, when you get that initial amount of traction, then you can pick up from there. Techie Divya says, can I get a job as software developer even if I don't have an IT degree and BTech degree? I don't have a degree myself, so yeah, definitely you can get a job. That's 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 mainly what my channel is all about. Rana Paul, what's up, Rana Paul? How is your project going? Okay, he asked that I kept practicing DSA. Now I'm only focusing on project. Is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. You can ask me on Twitter as well. You could have asked me on Twitter as well. Can I get a job only if I do the development part? Rana, you need to rewatch this entire thing because I answered it somewhere in the middle. I guess you missed it. Okay, Uncle Slayer says that he was asking if he should learn Figma to get a web development project on freelancing platform. I'm learning web dev only, not designing. Okay, so I mean, a lot of freelancing opportunities that are available in web dev sometimes also ask you to design, something for them, because they are asking for a two-in-one kind of a person who can code as well as design. So it could come in handy if you're able to design something along with coding, right? And if your Figma is a tool that would help you getting starting with it pretty fast, right? It's a very easy to use tool, and using that you can easily get started with doing some freelancing, some web development projects. It is going to increase your chances of getting more projects, because sometimes people are looking for a complete package कि I need a person जो design भी कर देगा, code भी कर देगा, सब कर देगा मेरे लिए. तो I mean, for those kind of projects, you are going to be eligible for that. I personally was not eligible for those kinds of projects. So, but I have seen the numbers, and there are a lot of such projects, such people who are looking for projects that for such clients who are looking for people who can do both the things. So that is going to increase your chances. But if you don't have an eye for design, then usually try to avoid it. But if you, let's say, think that you can design something decent, then I think learning Figma is worth it, because it is going to increase your chances of getting web development freelancing roles, and it is going to improve your chances of getting a job as well, because job again is similar. I mean, if you are someone who is some like able to design UI along with building a website, people are going to prefer you over someone who can just build a website, until and unless they are very good. And if you are really good as well with building a website, and you can contribute a little bit in the UI part as well, then they are going to prefer you over anyone else. Can you share your thought on Salesforce developer jobs versus web dev? Salesforce devs are usually, they are simply just, integrating the APIs that Salesforce have created, their entire, APIs and webhooks and things like that. They are generally, just integrating all those webhooks for the CRM management tools that the companies usually have, right? So I mean, Salesforce developers jobs is more into just dealing with the APIs and webhooks and things like that, without actually building much stuff, until and unless it's Salesforce plus WebDev, right? But if you're just talking about Salesforce, then for the most of the part you are just going to be dealing with APIs and webhooks, and just integrating their CRM APIs into your company's platform. WebDev is more about developing things from scratch and stuff, where you would again be doing some integrations. It could be that you're integrating, Salesforce itself. So Salesforce developer can be said as a subset of WebDev, but not the other thing around. WebDev is not a subset of Salesforce developer jobs, but Salesforce developer job can fall under WebDev. The complete full stack web dev is like a lot more than just Salesforce. Why don't you join civo with Kunal? Uh, I don't know. I don't want to do a job at this point of time. Is there any particular reason why you are teaching React at last? Well, I might not be teaching React at last, because I mentioned in the beginning of the stream that I am currently like changing the order of things here and there. So, like phase 2, the entire phase 2 of the bootcamp is going to happen later, and we are going to start with Python next month in June itself, around 25th of June, something like that. Right. So, but by then we would still be able to build some basic static websites and front end, and that is more than enough to get started with Python, and then some scripting in Python. And after doing some scripting with Python, we'll be writing some web applications with Python, purely on Python, where we would be using some Jinja templating system to build front end, and for back end we would be using Flask. And once we do that, then we would start exploring JavaScript and jQuery. We would explore a little bit about the event driven architecture and the serverless architectures. And once we do that, then we'll do React. Right, so it's not like React is going to happen as the last thing as of now, because I'm changing the order of the entire thing. uh, Changing the order of the entire thing seemed more practical to me. And there are going to be some changes happening here and there. It's not like I'm going to remove some things, but just change the order a little bit. Hey Apoorv, we don't know much about your work and all. Please tell something about it. So, like in my 4 years of experience, I actually started working with startups only. So the first startup I ever did was Melbourne based in Australia, a fintech startup named Avior, right? And it was a B2B product in the banking ecosystem, where there were like three types of clients and a lot of machine learning and things like that involved. So that was the very first startup that I worked on, Avior. And it was Melbourne based, so, and I was working from India, so obviously it was remote. Used to pay a good amount of money, and along with that, I did a local startup as well, Indian startup called Fireaway. And Fireaway was a Bangalore-based edutech startup. So again, the initial 1 year of Fireaway that I did it remotely from Himachal Pradesh, although the startup was Bangalore-based. But then when the startup was planning to scale up, I started I just moved to Bangalore for some time to build the tech team and enhance the product, and be a part of the early stage of that startup and things like that. So I did that. And after that, in March 2020, uh, I left everything and went back to Himachal Pradesh from Bangalore to do another startup called Pixel Math, because the concept was very good. And Pixel Math, again, we like did pretty great in it. We had some investment offers from some VC funds, like Matrix Partners approached us for funding our startup. And we scaled it up like pretty good. Like I built the tech of it. And I was also the sort of like the CTO of that startup, and also like the acting CEO in some points of time, where our like the actual founder of the startup was not available. So we did all of that, and we hosted a pan India competition with it, like in through that application, which was like one of the most trickiest pieces of tech that I have ever written. Like writing an application that could host a real-time pan-India competition with thousands and lakhs of users playing the like using the application at the same time. So that was like the hardest thing I have done in tech at this point of time. And after that, once I was done with that, and through all of this, I was doing some sort of freelancing as well here and there, like working contractually with some startups and things like that. I contractually worked with T Price. T Price is a, I think, a UK based fintech startup. um, it's not a startup, it's a company, more or less, because their valuation is, I guess, $20 billion or something. So I worked with them. And I've worked with Duolingo. Duolingo is the language learning app. And I've also like worked with Airbnb in the past, remotely, contractually, on one of their internal tools that they were building. And I've worked in an open source tool that was getting built by the Red Hat engineering team, again contractually. uh, so I've done that as well. And then sometime after, like, I was done with Pixel Math, which was there. I started exploring some long term options of how I can get more contract based work. So while exploring, I came across Toptal, which is a platform to perform some freelancing. So I like applied to Toptal, got into it. Then through Toptal, I started doing some projects and things like that. And I used to usually take up projects on 3 to 6 months of contracts. And then, I mean, if I used to like the project, I used to extend the contract for another 3 or 6 months, or I used to leave the project after my contract ended. And I like like on 15th April this year, I completed my last project, and haven't done freelancing since then. Because I mean, when I went to Dubai with Kunal, uh, I posted my first YouTube video on this channel. I went to Dubai, and in Dubai, I did a lot of thinking, like what do I want to do and things like that. And once I once I had the clarity on what I wanted to do when I came back from Dubai, I knew that YouTube is something that I want to pursue full time. So I don't want to do anything else along with it. And I stopped freelancing. I ended all my contracts that were ongoing. And now I'm just doing YouTube full time. So that is all about me, that I think should know. I missed a lot of questions again. When will you launch your own startup? Next year. So I want to dedicate this entire year just to YouTube. Next year I would be doing one startup of my own, like complete startup. How are you managing your expenses without job? I did a lot of savings till this point of time. So I think I can survive 1 year without a job. How to get tech related news? Well, Twitter is good for tech related news. You can subscribe to Code Magazine, that is pretty good for code related news. And Twitter and Code Magazine, I think, are two best things. Alchemist says, "Can I skip jQuery in your bootcamp?" Uh, I mean, it's not something for me to answer. It's your decision completely. लक्ष्य says, "Starting में Linux ज़्यादा overwhelming नहीं हो जाएगा?" हो जाएगा, but I mean, I'm just thinking long term here. Later on down the line, I created then, I created now. It's the same thing. Right. And now, since I've already started with Linux, the first thing, like why I introduced Linux, was that I wanted all the people who would do this bootcamp to move to Linux, because that takes you out of your comfort zone, which is very important when you're trying to learn something new. And the second thing is that, I mean, later on down the line, there are some things that I'm only going to implement in Linux and not teach the Windows implementation of those things. So there again, I mean, you guys would be on your own if you're using Windows. So that is going to be there. And since I already created 1 or 2 videos on Linux, I thought that I should not halt this Linux series here, and just for views and stuff move to HTML videos, because I know the HTML CSS videos are going to get a lot of views and stuff, which I mean a lot of guys has been commenting in my videos as well, that don't be disheartened that you're not getting views or stuff like that. I know, I mean, I'm going to get views there, but just for views I don't want to stop this series mid, in the mid, because I know if I stop it here and move forward, then there might be it might be that I never come back to this, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to finish it and then move forward. So that's why, I mean, I'm just focusing on completing it. In the long term anyway, people would have to watch this, if they or I mean, they would have to skip certain parts of the bootcamp entirely. Later on, if I let's say create a dedicated AWS masterclass per se, I teach the entire AWS, or I create a separate bootcamp on DevOps, and I teach the DevOps. Then anyways, people would have to watch Linux, right? So, I mean, कोई बात नहीं है, I mean, ठीक है. So I have a question. As everyone says, project-based learning is good, but when you get stuck and not able to find answers on Google or Stack Overflow, what would you like? What should you do? Because many projects in the middle get stuck because of this. Please help. So ask in the community. I mean, if you're not able to find answers on, on Stack Overflow, you're not able to find answers on Google. Ask in the community. Ask on Twitter. You have a question? Ask on Twitter. Right, that's what social media is for, right? That's what tech Twitter is. It's not just about sharing your learning and things like that. You have a question, you got stuck somewhere, ask on Twitter. There would be someone who would come up to help you out, right? They might ask some questions, just interact with them, right? And that's how you increase networking. Right, the like learn by doing and learning is in public are not different things, right? You learn by doing, and if you get some stuck somewhere, ask in public. Like learn in public, ask in public. Right. So it's as simple as that. Tell me about how you got into startups. Uh, I always had some interest in business, and I always wanted to work for myself instead of working for someone else. Uh, so I mean that's one of the prime reasons why I was always looking out for startups, and I always had an eye for startups. That is one of the main reasons why my major experience includes startups. So that is how like the entire startup thing started for me. And genuine clients, how do I get it on internet? Well, I could say that I got a little bit of lucky, because the first few initial clients that I found were kind of genuine, right? And I provided good work to them. So whenever in future they had some work for me, they always used to come back to me with more work, just because I delivered on time, I delivered under the budget and things like that, right? So they come used to come with me. Gradually I increased my price with them. It's not like with the very first project I asked them for a lot of money, right? Gradually I increased my price with them. And later on, as I started networking, I used to like started getting projects from my networks and things like that. And then it just kind of kicked off to the point where I was like actually doing working on two three startups at the same time, building two three products at the same time. So when I was in that stage, when I was building two three products at the same time, I had multiple streams of income, right? Since I was building three products at the same time, I used to get money from three different places, right? So at that point, that was the point of time where I actually like stopped freelancing for a while. And when I did that, when I stopped freelancing, then I started building connections where I was working, right? And when I started building connections there, then I mean these were the people who later on in time came back to me with some pro bono projects or things like that, or with things like they have a friend and they are doing this startup, so would you like to build their project, this is the budget and things like that. And things started kicking off from there. Can I reveal my earnings from first year till date? No. Can't. How much time per day do we have to give to the bootcamp in order to get 25 LPA package after 1 year? Well, it depends on you. I cannot answer that. I cannot tell you how much time you should give. But whatever task I give, whatever projects I give, whatever competitions are going to be there and things like that, all those things, whatever time it takes, if you complete them on time, then that is the time that you need to give. What's the work difference when learning and actually building some real project? Uh, Well, it's kind of similar. I mean, that's the entire point. When we talk about learn by doing, right? When we talk about, try to build something while learning the technology or something like that, then what you're trying to induce is what you are simply trying to induce something that you are going to experience in a job as well, right? So that is behind the scenes what you're trying to induce, right? And when you're trying to do that, like that sort of a thing that you're learning by doing, this is something that we do in the job as well. I mean, many a times we are building, we might get some requirement from our team, from our seniors and things like that, and asking us to build, random features that are very difficult to implement and things like that. So it's not like always we know exactly what we want to do. Most of the times during the job as well, we are learning while, building that thing, right? So learn by doing promotes like it's more or less similar to working on a real project while doing a job. If you learn by doing, you are kind of having the same sort of experience that you are going to have if you, let's say, do the same thing in a job as well. Okay, so Arjun says that, hi Apoorv, I have been unemployed for 5 months now and a BTech dropout. I have 1.5 years of work experience in DevOps production support. Could you please suggest a path to land a remote job? We try to learn the technologies that are more essential in today's times, things like Docker, things like Kubernetes. You can also try to learn some advanced things in AWS or things like that. Like for example, AWS has these things called terraforms. So try to learn them, try to see how you set up the entire architecture around your different services and applications that you build for an entire organization, right? So try to build all of that, and you can obviously start applying for jobs since you already have about 1.5 years of work experience. Then in DevOps, then I would suggest that you stick to DevOps, improve your skills in DevOps, and start applying. When you apply to a job, give interviews. When you give interviews, there are going to be two outcomes: either you get selected or you get rejected, right? If you get selected, that's very good, you will eventually get a job. But if you get rejected per se, then just kindly ask them for some feedback, like why are they rejecting you, like what could you improve in your skills or in your profile or anything like that, that would otherwise they would have given you a chance. If this is something that you would have in your profile or your skills, try to ask them why they are rejecting you, and whatever feedback you receive from them, work on it, right? Work on it, and that will eventually lead you to improve your skills and yourself. And then I mean you can soon, I mean within the span of about 2 months or something, you can aim to get a job again. Do you prefer contractual work over full-time work? Yes, I always prefer contractual over full-time, because contractual gives me an opportunity to do multiple things, and I mean it helps me grow, I think, at a much faster pace. Because if like in my experience, when I was working contractually, and up until this point I have worked contractually only mostly. I've done a couple of full-time jobs as well, but didn't really like them, so left them after completing my 1 year or something in those jobs. Uh, But contractual work, what it helped me with is that I gained, the experience of building different types of applications in a very short amount of time. I mean, one contractual work I'm doing is regarding an e-commerce application, the other contractual I'm doing is regarding an edutech, the other contractual I'm doing is a fintech, the fourth contractual I'm doing is something else, right? Then fifth contractual I'm doing requires, some mobile skills as well, so I'm building a website, and along with that I'm also part time working on some mobile application as well. So it just kind of helped me grow a lot, right? And it's not like I'm kind of stuck with the same sort of project, right, until and unless I make a switch and look for a new job, right? So I'm not stuck with the same kind of project. I get to work on a lot of projects through that in, a short span of time. In 1 year I can easily work on 2 to 3 different types of projects. That is going to help me grow immensely. So yes, I prefer contractual jobs over full time. And obviously, I mean, for contractual as well, if you, let's say, like working with your employer and your employer likes working with you, then your contracts can obviously be extended, right? I mean, but it should be both ways. It's not like your employer is not happy with you or you are not happy with the employer, right? I had a few contracts that I got extended because I really liked working with them, and they extended it because they must have liked working with me. But and that is like one of the major reasons why I, prefer contract over full time. I want to follow your bootcamp and skip college. Is there any risk in this approach? Well, yes, the risk is definitely there. You need to take your own decision. I mean, I cannot take your decisions on your behalf. If you want to skip college, you're doing it and you're at your own risk. I never asked you to skip college. I created a video on things to consider before dropping out of college. Go watch that video, think accordingly, take your decision wisely. Because if you drop out of college or skip college at this point of time, there is no going back after that. I filled the Google form regarding GitHub maintainer at Virtual Tech School. When can I expect reply for that? I'll be sending replies in a few days. Maybe in Monday or Monday, Tuesday. I would be like, write. I would have to write a lot of emails because I received a lot of applications for that, and I'll like I went through all the applications. I would be writing personal emails on why I'm selecting or not selecting someone. But you can expect those emails on Tuesday by Wednesday at max. भैया बस एक बार नौकरी लग जाए, सबसे पहली काजू कतली आपको ही भेजूंगा. ओके ब्रो. लक्ष्य शर्मा. I'll remember that. So do you play games? Yes, I sometimes play Counter Strike, CS:GO. So CS:GO is like one of my most favorite games that I play. Apart from that, I like to play some story based games as well, like Assassin's Creed series and things like that. I like to play them. RDR2, Red Dead Redemption 2 is like one of my favorite games that I've played. Never seen a better story than that. But yeah, I mean, competitively, I just play CS:GO. It's fun. I mean, I'm an opper there, so I usually take an op, uh, and like just help my team in capturing a site, and that's pretty much it. And if I'm playing CT, then I usually try to defend the site through an op, like taking strategic positions and things like that. Tell us about your skills. My skills, I mean, you would get to know about them over time. Yeah, I have no idea about VIT Vellore. One thing I could recommend to you, Shreyansh, is that seek out some people, some students who are already studying in VIT or some alumni of VIT, right? Go to them and like ask them, how it has been like what how strict is the attendance and things like that, how much free time did they used to get, and take your decision accordingly. Yeah, Kiran. I mean, doing multiple things. So Kiran says that I'm learning Go and WebDev, like one in the morning and the other in the evening. Not just learning, but projects as well. Is that okay? Because I'm feeling good so far. Well, if you're able to manage that, the reason why earlier I said that you should not go for two things at once is because most of the times, people kind of start overwhelming themselves, and when they start overwhelming themselves, that is the point when they start getting demotivated, they start losing focus, and eventually they give up, right? So if you are able to manage that, and if you are feeling good about it, then sure, I mean, go for it. Continue doing that, but if not, then just stick to one thing. I'm a mechanical engineer, want to learn full stack developer, please give suggestions from where should I start. What do I say to this? I mean, I'm making a full stack developer course only, so you can do that, but it's going to take time to create videos and contents and things like that. Uh, but if you want to get started early, then I'm not sure of any other channels that I mean, I haven't explored any other channels courses except for Angel I use. Should I shift from Windows to Linux or dual boot? Well, if Windows is not important to you, if you don't play video games a lot, or I mean, if you don't have other people in your family who use the system, like your parents maybe or your siblings, then definitely go for Linux. Windows is anyway not that good. But if you have, all of those situations, then you can dual boot. You can also consider using VMware. That's also a good option. How long have you been doing job? Well, I started my journey in November 2017, got my first freelancing project in February 2018, and got my first remote job in July 2018. I'm stuck at JavaScript. Can you please suggest me some resources on how did you learn it? Some helpful tips. Thanks for all the stuff you're doing. For JavaScript, just I mean, just learn by doing, and the best resource that I see is the documentation. I haven't really explored any other resources in JavaScript, but just like documentation and learn by doing. Just ask simple questions in JavaScript. You're trying to build something. The basic things that you need in JavaScript is having the knowledge of functions and loops and conditionals and variables and things like that. Once you have that knowledge, just try to build stuff with basic things, right? And eventually start, moving to intermediate and advanced concepts. And if let's say you're building something and you are not able to achieve that with just the basic knowledge that you have, then start Googling your questions, right? Like how to implement this functionality and stuff like that. I mean, initially when I used to code, I used to use Stack Overflow a lot. Like I used to, if I let's say didn't find the answer to any question on Stack Overflow, I simply used to ask a question on Stack Overflow, and I used to get a lot of answers on that as well, because Stack Overflow has a very helpful community. I mean, people are very helpful there, although a little bit toxic, I would say, because if let's say you, did a noob mistake like asking a question twice, which like already exists, and if your question is a duplicate or anything like that, then people are going to not be very nice with you, right? But otherwise, I mean, it's a good community. What about Mac M1 versus Ubuntu? Which should I prefer more? Well, if you have a Mac, then you honestly don't need Linux, because if you have a MacBook, then MacBook is again Unix based, as like just like Linux, right? So if you have a MacBook already, then you don't need to switch to Linux. All the things that you do in Linux, all the commands basically also work in Mac, so you can continue working with Mac. And Mac in general, although there are some minor things that are different than Linux, Mac in general, has a better experience as a whole, right? As a device, it gives you such a nice experience, in my opinion, that when I switched into MacBook after using Ubuntu in my like previous laptop, when I switched to MacBook, I like till this point of time, if let's say I didn't had to create this bootcamp and this course, I would still be on Mac. I mean, even at this point of time, I just use Ubuntu and stuff to do the bootcamp stuff. All the rest of the stuff I do in my MacBook. It's there, right? So I mean, yeah, I mean, I prefer MacBook over Ubuntu because I have like had that experience, and like that experience a lot, the entire vibe of what Mac gives you. But for beginners, if you cannot afford it, then Ubuntu is a very good like operating system, much better than Windows. Can I land a remote job in my third year without any internships? Well, see, I mean, the all the questions that you guys ask about, can I do this, can I do that, it's just a very self-doubting thing, right? I mean, there is nothing in this world that you cannot do. Right, there's nothing in this world. If you want to do something, you can definitely go for it. You will succeed or you will fail. But can I do this? Of course, you can do this. Right, you might fail, you might not be able to do it, but you won't know until you try. Right, when I dropped out of college, and I had all the situation going on with me, and I wanted to get into tech and things like that. If let's say I would have asked someone that bhaiya, can I get a 1 lakh plus earning in a month in 1 year from now, and that bhaiya would have said no, would I have stopped there? And if I stopped there, where would I be today? The only thing is that I didn't ask any bhaiya about it. I just tried it. I said कि क्या हो जाएगा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा. I would not be able to achieve it at max. इससे बुरा क्या ही हो जाएगा. यही तो होगा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कि मैं नहीं कर पाया. I gave my best, I tried it, I wasn't able to achieve it. That's the max that can happen, right? But अगर मैंने किसी भैया से पूछा होता उस टाइम पे कि भैया, can I achieve this, can I make more than a lakh in a month in 1 year from now, I don't have a college degree, I'm a 12th pass out, I don't have any technical skills, मैं आज start कर रहा हूँ, क्या आज से 1 साल बाद मुझे इतना मिल जाएगा? And that भैया would have said no. तो क्या मैंने ट्राई नहीं किया होता? और नहीं किया होता तो कहाँ होता आज मैं सोच भी नहीं सकता. आई कांट इवन इमेजिन दैट कि मैं कहाँ होता आज. तो ये सब पूछा मत करो, ट्राई किया करो. जब तक ट्राई नहीं करोगे कैसे होगा? अब उस टाइम पे तो आई डिडंट हैव एनीवन टू आस्क दीज क्वेश्चंस ना. मतलब आई like simply didn't have any questions to anyone to ask these questions, and I'm glad I didn't have anyone, because had I asked anyone and that person would have said no, that would have thrashed my confidence. I didn't ask anyone, right? And I was so confident in my abilities. I was so confident that I would be able to achieve it, that I did, right? So don't ask these kind of questions that can I do this, can I do that. You can do anything. You will either succeed, you will either fail, right? But you can do anything, right? It's just a matter of how much you believe yourself, how much believe in your skills, how much hard work you can put in, and how much dedicatedly you're going to follow that thing. So that is a very bad mindset, that can I do this, can I do that. If let's say I say that no, you cannot do that, नहीं करोगे क्या? How to deal with burnout and distractions? Simple to deal with burnouts. Just try to avoid any. Just try to take a day or two off. Maybe try to or just have some fixed thing that you do at the end of a day. For me, I usually watch some YouTube or some Netflix, or usually I watch IPL highlights, match ka highlights, stuff like that. So I usually watch cricket, maybe play some CS:GO or things like that. So at the end of the day, I mean, throughout the day, I like work the entire day, and then at the end of the day, when I do these things, then it kind of helps me, avoid burnout. And if let's say after working hard for a lot of time, if still these kind of things happen, then I just usually make a plan to go out with my friends, watch a movie, or go on a trip entirely, things like that. So you can do all of those things. I'm not saying that you go on a trip. It might be that you are not able to afford that thing. So one thing that you can do is just try to find a group of friends and go play cricket with them, or go play football with them, whatever it is, right? Play badminton with them, whatever sports you like, right? And to avoid distractions, again, I mean, try to build that habit, slowly. Whenever you wake up in the morning, the first thing that you should do is you should like wash your face and just sit down and just try to do some work for 1 hour without checking your phone, right? Build that habit of resisting to check your phone, because this phone is a very bad thing. You keep checking it again and again, and this is one of the major reasons of getting distracted. Once you build that habit of being able to do some work the first thing in the morning after waking up, before checking your phone, then usually, I mean, in the longer run, you would be able to avoid distractions. Brother, I have less or no qualification and I am learning Java right now. Please help while choosing any roadmap, how to go from desktop support to developer job or a DevOps profile. Well, you can follow my bootcamp again. I mean, it's the same thing. I'm not like taking any assumptions here that you know this, you know that. I'm just teaching everything from scratch. So you can do that. And if you feel that some other course having good reviews or anything, because my course is going to take time, you can try to pursue that. I mean, the end objective is that your goals are getting fulfilled, right? Now that could be through my bootcamp, that could be through someone else's bootcamp, someone else's course, someone else's videos. But I mean, the problem here is that the problem that we are trying to solve. I mean, any creator that is there. I'm not sure what other creators have vision, like what is their vision or what is their agenda or anything. But in my opinion, I mean, any creator who is doing a great work, right? The vision, the only vision that we guys have is that we want to make sure that these opportunities are coming forward for you, right? I mean, you are becoming eligible for these opportunities, and all the uh, things that are available on the internet sometimes could be misguiding or could be overwhelming, right? इतनी सारी चीज़ें होती हैं, so it can be sometimes overwhelming that what works or what not works, sharing experiences and things like that. So the idea is to get you started and get you placed, and get you placed good, right? So if anyone else is doing it, and I know I'm going to take a little bit of time to have some videos down the line posted on this channel. Actually, in June, I mean, I'm thinking in June that I'm going to post at least 12 to 15 videos of the bootcamp itself. So that is going to be there. But still, I mean, it is going to take time. So you can start exploring other channels as well if you think that you need it fast. And yeah, maybe it is going to work out for you. Twindle Factor asked that, hey Apoorv, I've tried development for a while but realized it isn't for me. I'm more into the math side of things, which are more analytical and programming. So, what IT domain suits me better? Go with data science and machine learning. Machine learning involves heavy maths and statistics. I think you're going to love that if you are into maths. Or you could also go into game development as well. Game development heavily uses, uh, you know, maths and physics, right? So if you're a physics fan, go for game development. Please share your thoughts on how to speak English like you. Yeah, see, I mean, the first thing why my English is good is that I studied in an English medium school, right? So, and Kunal and I were classmates. I mean, we used to sit together in class, right? And not study together. And yeah, so I'm just getting a little bit of nostalgic, but yeah, I mean, we studied in same school and we are both from English medium schools. So English was like never a problem for us in the first place. I mean, since we were kids, we, you know, our teachers used to speak in English and we, you know, used to answer them in English and we आपस में हिंदी में बात करते थे. Obviously कोई इंग्लिश मीडियम हिंदी मीडियम से फर्क नहीं पड़ता. All buddies, you know, all friends talk in Hindi to each other. वही अपना, आई मीन, मज़ा हिंदी, फील हिंदी में बात करने में ही आती है. आई मीन हम लोग इंडियंस हैं तो अपने को फील नहीं आती इंग्लिश इंग्लिश में. फील अपनी हिंदी में ही आती है. दोस्तों के साथ कोई इंग्लिश में नहीं बात करता. तो बट वही है, आई मीन वी यूज टू लाइक be in that environment where, you know, everyone is speaking English and things like that, so we never face that problem. But one thing that I usually recommend, you know, to learn English is that start watching some English movies, start listening to English songs, start blogging, right? I mean, there are two types of English, right? One is your written English and one is your verbal English, right? So start improving your written English along with your verbal English, right? Start writing some blogs, Twitter threads. If you, let's say you are struggling a lot with English, and always speak in English, right? Always speak in English, as in ki whatever you are trying to convey, whatever you are trying to speak, always try to speak in English, because then gradually, don't think about what people are going to make of you or what people are going to think of you, right? लोगों को जो सोचना है सोचने दो, उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. The main thing is that you want to improve your English and you are speaking in English to do that. Right, people will laugh today, but sometime down the line when your English has improved and with good English you have scored a good job, the same people are going to come to you asking, "Bhai, तूने कैसे किया? How did you do that? How did you manage to do that?" Right? So just focus on your efforts, right? Always speak in English. Gradually you would improve, right? Gradually your pronunciation would get fluent, right? Gradually, I mean, you wouldn't have to think before speaking anything, right? Starting में क्या होता है, starting में we have to think a little bit that I want to speak this, so how should I form this sentence, and then we, you know, start to form the sentence and then speak. Over the time, you know, when you get comfortable with English, when you start speaking in English, then you won't have to think a lot that what do I want to speak. Whatever you want to speak, it will automatically come out of you, right? So do all of those things, and in the long run it is going to improve your English a lot. Do you prefer northeast more or south too for remotely working? I prefer Himachal Pradesh, nothing else. Simple answer. When are we gonna start with React? Might take 3-4 months from now. Might take. RN says that sit together in class and not studying together, backbenchers. See, that is the point. We used to sit together in the first bench and not study from there. The swag level was different. All phases are paid or free after some time. All phases are going to stay free. All the videos, I mean, the entire curriculum and everything on my channel is going to be free. I won't charge anything. I haven't thought about like making it paid at least in the near future, at least for 1 year down the line. I mean, the general vision that I have in mind is that I want to create enough content for those people who cannot afford it, right? Because I mean, generally what happens is that everything has a price, right? And the ones who have money, they can afford anything. There are a lot of tons of good courses available for people who can afford it, right? There are, different companies who are just offering it. Right, there is Upgrad who is taking 37,000 for some particular course. There is some other company who is charging 80,000 for some particular course. Right, there's a you know Udacity offers great courses, but their nano degrees are like 80,000, 70,000 bucks, right? So I mean, the people who can afford it, there are a lot of resources available for them, and a lot of opportunities, once they go through that resources, a lot of opportunities comes their way. But the problem is that the people who cannot afford it, there are not much resources available for them, right? So until and unless I create content enough that is going to make any underprivileged person, any person who cannot afford a good living, or like even a college for that matter, until and unless they are like these people, I create content enough for them that they can go through that content, and if they do hard work, they can get good opportunities. I'm not going to make anything paid. After that, we'll see. After that, I haven't thought about it. Until then, I'm not going to do that, right? And I mean, the general thing, as per my experience, since I've like worked at the ground level, at the root level, and I've worked with a lot of underprivileged people, I've seen underprivileged people like uh, learning and things like that. So I was underprivileged at a time, right? And the thing is that it's not like underprivileged people cannot do it. It's simply that they don't have the means to afford these privileges, right? And just because they cannot afford these resources and things like that, they are stripped of the opportunities that the privileged otherwise get, right? But one thing that is there is that if these underprivileged people, most of the underprivileged people, if they are pushed a little bit, and if they are given the resources and the opportunities, then they are very hardworking actually, right? Because I mean, they have faced all the hardships. Being underprivileged, they have faced all these hardships, in their life, and just because they have faced all these hardships, they are generally very hardworking in nature, and I mean, being able to commit all that amount of hard work, I feel that I want to provide a course where I believe that if any underprivileged kid, any underprivileged person, provides, gives that much amount of hard work, then they are definitely going to succeed. But if not, then that's on you. I cannot help there. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep this free, all the phases, and maybe more content after this as well, as I see. Right, it is going to remain free. Um I mean, as long as I create enough for the underprivileged, then we'll see. Even then, I don't think I'm going to make it paid or anything. But yeah, I mean, I've only thought up until that point of time. After that, I haven't given it a thought yet. Windows or Linux? Linux. I had a talk with Shanu on Discord where he mentioned that he taught you Linux. How did you met with him and how's your relation with him? Shanu has been one of my mentors. So Shanu has been like one of the very early people I met in Himachal Pradesh, and we worked together in the initial days, and like he has always been like a mentor to me. Because I mean, when I started coding, he already have 5 years of experience, 6 years of experience. So I used to like, जैसे तुम लोग मुझे भैया बुलाते हो मैं उनको भैया बुलाता हूँ, so he's like my mentor. That's my relation with him. I mean, he's my friend obviously, but like I consider him my mentor. I'm addicted to coding a lot of time, so you get eye pain. What is the solution for that? Uh, just try to use low brightness, right? And try to like study in a well lit room, and take short breaks. Give some breaks to your eyes as well. Maybe take a break and just you know meditate for a bit. In that you would also be getting some clarity of mind, and you would be closing your eyes, which is going to give you some relief or something. I am new in software engineering. How much maths is must for doing software engineering? I still don't know a lot of maths, right? So I don't think you need a lot of maths to do software engineering. DS algo में लगता है, and DS algo it takes maths. Uh, the maths it takes in DS algos, that's the only math I know, and some maths from game development as well. And I know a little bit of physics for building physics engines in game dev, but apart from that, not much. So if you are doing purely web dev, then I don't think that you need a lot of maths. In other fields, I'm not sure. But still, I don't think you need a lot of maths until and unless you're going for machine learning. If you're going for machine learning, definitely maths is very important there. Websites, ways to get internship. You can join my Discord server. Take a look at the resources channel. In the resources, a guy from our community um, posted a Twitter thread with 21 websites where you can apply for internships and websites, remote internships and websites. Go through that. Okay, I think we are not getting questions anymore. So it's time to end the stream, I guess. The stream has been going on for 3 hours and 3 minutes. Pretty long stream. Longer than the previous one. Yeah, I think it's definitely over 3 hours. 3 hours and 3 minutes. The stream would be available, Namit. You can watch that later. Breaking records. Yeah, I'm breaking records. सही है. ठीक है guys. The stream would be available on my channel, so you can watch that. And do I mean Just do one thing, Namit. If you're going to watch it again, just make sure that you create timestamps for me, right? So do create timestamps for me. Angela, you course I don't like that much. I mean, again, the major problem with that course I see is the structure of that course. It has never appealed to me. And someone asked me a few days ago that if I had the chance to go back in time, uh, then would I watch, like, would I start my coding career by watching Angela Yu's course? And my answer was no. My answer was that if I go back in time, I would again do the same things that I did through my journey and not watch her course, because if I watched her course, then I think I would have been very confused about a lot of things. I'm not saying it's not a great course. Her way of teaching is very good. I mean, she teaches pretty well and things like that, but I am just not like aligned with the structure of her course at all. So that's one of the major reasons why I don't like her course. I'm like, her teaching is still great. My only problem is the structure. How was your day? My day was good. Probably going to get better because I'm going to get a beer. Right. Did you contribute to open source? I've contributed to open source just once. I was working on Flask, and in Flask, I encountered an issue, and I kind of went to GitHub and I raised an issue regarding that, and it came out to be an actual issue with no solve. So I like just solved it by cloning the Flask code, created a pull request, and it got merged. So that was the only time I uh, contributed to open source. Haven't done that much, but I'm still like going to create a video on making a like open source contribution real time in front of you, like picking an issue in front of you guys, solving it in front of you guys, and uh, hopefully getting it merged. Let's see, right? But did you take any course while learning? No, I didn't. And Cold Steel, I'm hearing that name for the first time. Not sure. And okay, guys, I think that's pretty much it. And the stream would be available on the channel, so if you joined late, then you can definitely watch that. And yeah, cold beer and chill. And you guys also uh, take a break, relax. Not heard about Cold Steel as well, hearing it for the first time. Uh, yeah, so go take a break, have some dinner and things like that. And I'll see you in the next live stream, hopefully soon. Till then, bye.